Thank
Hey.
you.
Yeah, we're ready now.
Yep, it is preparing the stream as we speak. It takes about 20 seconds. We are live.
All righty. Thank you all for joining us for this regular board meeting of the Shelton School District. This is the meeting for August 11th, 2020. And we are hereby called to order. And we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Sally, can you lead us in that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you very much. If they were judging that in the Olympics, we did not all stay in rhythm.
No, we did not.
All righty. Since this is YouTube, I guess it's probably polite to say my name's Sandy Tarswell. And I would ask members of the board if they have had a chance to review the agenda and maybe do names real quick since it is YouTube so people will know, since we don't have the benefit of nameplates in front of us. Alrighty, have members of the board had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, that would be Carrie.
Our names are listed on our
Oh, good
screen.
point.
So we
Okay.
do sort of have nameplates.
Yeah, that works. Alrighty, and is there a motion to approve, to
I'll
adopt the
move that
agenda?
We approve the agenda for this evening.
Alrighty,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as published. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have the adoption of the agenda. At this point in time, we come to the part of the meeting that allows for community comment. And will our host let us know if we have any public comment, either by email or by, I guess it's too soon for a YouTube comment, but what kind of public comment might we have?
I have one comment from Brianna Richardson. Do students need to be signed on at a certain time? That's the only comment in the mailbox.
Okay, and I'm assuming that must mean in relation to time of day for classes. So we'll log that community comment and thank that person for joining us. At this point in time, we'll move on to reports and recognitions. Being the first meeting of the month, we get our monthly bond update with Jeff Feeney. So thank you, Jeff. What's new this month?
Oh, same old stuff, but always something new. Let me pull up on the screen and see if I can get some stuff here. I promised you last week that I would get you some pictures. It's the wrong one. I'll come back to that. This is the D3 package. Those that are familiar, the light is the football field, the dark is the track. The status today, you'll notice these concrete pits. These are like the long jump pits we filled with sand. Everything along the track is drainage that runs all the way around the track. There'll be some over by the grandstand and of course under the field. So that's the status. We're putting down all the top course. We're back to almost grade. And the turf for the football field and everything is coming, I believe, next week. Will take about 12 days before we're done with it. And you'll see here the rock that's laying out there. And this is all being spread across the football fields to get up to final grade. This is just a picture to show you that there's different types of rock out there. This is basically the base course. This is the top course. And you see the difference in the gradation so that it gets smooth and lays down so we can get the rest of the field down. This is just another picture looking back to the northeast at the bus center. What you'll see here is all the trees are gone. Sally is excited about that. So no more roots in the track. Save on her Achilles, right, Sally? But so moving along, and this is the drainage that's along, goes all the way around the track. In here, we also have some electrical conduits that they can plug in. And you can see that things are getting ready. Next step will be just putting it all together and making it look good. So that's how it's moving. This is the, I forgot the term. This is the bottom piece of the new lights. The lights will be arriving this week or next week. Then the rest of the pole will be insert into this and tied together. There will be 4 brand new lights that are twice as bright as the original lights. Those are all in place and ready to go. So your lights are moving along. This is one of the pits that'll be filled with sand. And I don't remember if this is the long jump or whatever, but these are all being built out of concrete and filled with sand. So they ought to last a good period of time. So that's D3. So let me click out of that one, see if I can do this right. I got to go back and get back into this, and let me pull up this one and share screen. Come on. Come on.
While you're doing that, Jeff, I believe what they said is the lights are going to be going up on Monday.
Monday. Okay. My notes are I promised all of you, I had showed pictures of the Bordeaux gym, but I didn't have any interior pictures. And so I wanted to bring a couple of interior pictures to bring you up to date. Mary Ann, this is one of the projects you worked very hard to get going, and it's just about finished. We're doing the punch list items. Everything is in, the court is finished. We're just kind of finishing up the things. This is the new covered play area that's got some basketball hoops up. This is extended off the gym. And this is the canopy we built last year to go to the portables. It's just disconnected. You got to walk about 3 steps up and get under here and you're back under cover. So we have about 10 feet where you might get wet transitioning from the original school all the way down to the portables. So that's just an update to show you the status of the Bordeaux gym. And now I'll go back and say, I want this one. Okay, where'd it go? This one, share. This is the D2 project. This is the outside of the extension of the wrestling room and the new weight room. As you can see, the roof is going on, the insulation, and everything is going up and in. It's already completed. You'll notice the brick for the lower course is being installed. We got lucky. That was going to be almost a 2-month delay, and we got it started early. So we got a big break on that. So this is moving along pretty well. You'll see here that all the brick is here. It's going on. This is only going to be roughly about 5 or 6 feet high. It's just a kind of a base course, then the rest of the siding will go on above it. We have the windows. The windows will be going in, and then we'll finish the siding on the building. Just another picture. This is looking at it. There's the pool building back there, and here's the roof of the mini dome. This is the baseball field. So you can just orient yourself and you can see how big this is as an addition. And I know that Trevor is just about ready to jump out of his chair because this is coming to a conclusion. This is inside the rooms, getting ready to finish. Going down around through the corridor. This is looking back at the weight room.
That's the wrestling room.
I'm sorry, wrestling room. Yep,
Yep.
You're right, with the windows, yep. And we come back along. This is the coach's room, right?
Coach's office, yeah.
Yeah, okay, the new coach's office where they can look out into the areas. This is always something you find when you're remodeling. This in itself looks like we just have to build a wall to fill in this hole. However, we found out it's a firewall, so it's going to take a 2-hour wall and we'll get it done. But this is what happens when you renovate. You find that sometimes things weren't done right the first time, but we fix them the second time. So we'll get that done. And here you got walls with the insulation going in through the locker rooms and everything else. And for those of you that want to know the status of the pool, the new pool is finished. The tiling, all of that is in. Everything is set up. The gutters are in. This is ready to get put in the timing system and the scoreboard and finish the thing and then do the flooring. This is your lap pool from a couple of directions. And I don't think you can see where the timers are going in, but we're 3'6" on the shallow end and 5 foot deep on the other end. So we can go with the diving or with the starting blocks. So those are just about, we're ready to finish. Gutters already inside and going around. The diving pool is done and the diving boards have been reinstalled at this point. So that's the status of the projects. We're pretty much on schedule. We're going to be pretty close, luckily, with school not starting as we thought. We may run a little bit over. We're discussing it tomorrow and Thursday with the contractors, but we won't be too far over the schedule that we originally proposed. But I don't see any sense, Dr. Apostle, to go to overtime or to force them when we don't have a hard date for a football game or anything. I think we just want to get it done and not spend any more money than we have to.
I would agree with that.
So anyway, so that's the status of the projects. We're hoping to get the punch list done and closed out shortly. And we expect that these projects will, as far as D2 and D3, will be taken care of sometime in mid-September. We are adding a piece of netting to the softball field that was kind of omitted in the original kind of design. We're adding a piece to make sure that the softballs won't fly onto the tennis courts. It's going to require one more pole be added. And then we're adding some gates into the fences. And I think the only thing left on the baseball field is just the edging on the warning track has still got to be resolved, I think, Trevor, and fencing around the dugout, the home dugout.
Yeah, there was a section of fence that was never put back up
Yeah.
when they left. And then we added a little section back in the right field corner.
Yep.
So that the actual field's totally enclosed. So if we do have a ground ball that rolls over there, it won't roll out of play.
Yeah.
Yep.
We allow the contractor to do when they're going to do the fencing for the D3 project to just double back and do it at that time. And so they didn't have to pay for a separate mobilization.
Yeah. So anyway, they're all moving along quite well. I don't know about Shelton and the Shelton community, if you guys are as excited as I am to see this kind of coming to a conclusion. And hopefully by the end of September, we're going to be able to say it's done. And since 2015, Dr. Apostle, to 2020, it's been 5 years, but look what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Great presentation, Jeff. And I think the entire community is very proud of what's happened and what is happening. And it'd be great to see it finished for sure.
Yeah. And we think we picked up some of the drainage issues and trying to solve those and get a little more paving done and touched up on the bus lane. And that's all scheduled coming up in about a week, I think, Robert, on the schedule. We're going to get a new schedule tomorrow or Thursday, and we'll see what those are. And then Brenda will get you official dates on the paving.
So they're just waiting for the catch basins to be delivered, because there's a little bit of lead time on that. Once they're received, they'll get started.
Yep. So we'll get that all taken care of. So with that, that's pretty much just as an overall statement. When we look at the budgets we put together for D1, 2, and 3, I think we're going to be very close to being on budget. At this point, it's going to be very close. We have a little contingency that's still left, but if nothing blows up, all the hard stuff is done right now. I mean, we've got the drainage in, we've got the pools done. The pools went remarkably well. I thought those were going to give us a lot more trouble and might even be a cause of delays. And boy, they just really flew through that pool. And I think everybody that participates in the swimming and the community are going to love the final design. And when the new floor goes in, they're going to love the whole thing. The locker rooms are being improved. They're going to have more lockers, and it's going to be a great facility.
Wonderful.
With
Great.
that, I'll take any questions.
Have the osprey vacated the nest?
No,
Okay.
that's a definitive no. Do we have a second nest that's going to, we're hoping they're going, we have left 2 of the original 8 light poles in place. Those are the 2 with the osprey. They do not interfere with the new lights that are going to be installed. So we will simply just wait for the osprey to take a vacation. And while they're gone, the poles will disappear.
They heard because of coronavirus, there's a no eviction order.
Yep,
So
yep.
so they're staying around a little longer.
They're hanging around, yeah. But they're there. We have not disturbed them. Amazing. I thought they would fly away when there were trucks and graders and excavators and everything, and they just sat there. So, but
Cool.
so it will probably be the last piece that comes down is when they fly away sometime this year. We'll get on those poles and pull them down.
Thank you, Jeff.
Questions or comments from other board members?
I have driven past it just even today because I don't get out and about as much as I used to, but every time I do, I try to drive by up there, and it always amazes me the progress that has gone on. I think that the field is looking great, and I definitely see the mini dome coming together. I'm really happy to hear that it sounds like things are coming in on budget too. I know that the football field we had some concerns about, and that didn't end up being as concerning as we thought. So we didn't have to dive into the contingency as much there. And it's really nice to hear that about the pools as well. I did have a question that a community member had asked me at one point in time. And I heard you saying something about the netting so that balls wouldn't go into the tennis courts. But other than that, the tennis courts are all completed, aren't they? And there are lights back there. Those were done prior to this whole project. So besides just doing some things with the softball fields back there, is that general area ready to go?
Yes, the only things that are not complete on the baseball fields and the tennis courts are that section of netting. And I'm guessing, and I'm going to throw a number out, and I may be way off on this because I just kind of pays it. There's about 50 feet or so that we need to put up some netting between the backstop on the softball field and the dugout. There's a gap there that we felt should have netting in it. Then the netting from the other side of the dugout running west down the right field foul line is already in place. And so it's just that missing piece to put back in. The fencing on the baseball field and a little cleanup and a few things is all that has to be done on the baseball field. And the tennis courts, I think, are all done. I don't think there's any issues on the tennis courts. The gates are in. They're ready for play. If we had tennis this fall, I think you could run tennis on those courts, right, Trevor?
Yeah. And, we, Robert, thank you again. We moved the container that was back there for a long time. And as soon as we get everything done and all of the construction stuff out of the way, just a little bit of weeding, it'll look really nice.
And to clarify, there's not lighting on the tennis courts, but there is just ambient lighting that's cast from what was added to the new gymnasium building.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I appreciate the update.
Yeah. So it's really going to look nice. I mean, I as a former athlete, I won't say good or great athlete, but as a former athlete, I'm one that can really appreciate when you have good facilities. It just makes you want to play better. And you will have athletes that will play better because you've put together some great facilities. And I think Shelton will be a gem in the league from here on out.
Good to hear, Jeff. Thank you.
Oh, I had one other question. This is for Robert and Trevor. We put the padding on top of the fence on the softball field. Are we going to do the same thing on the baseball field? I think that's been omitted in the planning.
We
can
need to go over that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the meeting.
Okay, I was out there today and walking around. I snuck out there and just made one of my sneak trips to go through everything. But I was walking around, I looked at the fence and I thought, I wonder if we forgot that.
Well, I think it's because the fence for the softball field was all brand new and that was part of the fencing.
Yeah.
Whereas the baseball field, it's the original fence. So
That's right.
And I think the only problem we're going to have, it's not going to be a big expense to put it on, but the fencing on the baseball field has got some changes in elevation at the top rail. And we got to figure out how that's going to look going around. But just wanted to bring it up because I saw it today and I had not picked it up until this morning.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Questions or comments from other board members? I would just comment like Carrie said, we haven't been out and about as much in general, and we certainly haven't been on campus. So seeing the pictures and seeing the progress, it's great to see the progress that's been made, and all of a sudden it's so much more real.
Yep.
So, any other comments? Okay, Dr. Apostle, did you have anything?
Oh, no, I think everything's been covered.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Looks like that's it for
Okay.
your report. We appreciate your update.
Thank you and have a good board meeting and see you in a month.
Take care, Jeff.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Okay, bye then.
Thank you. So have members of the board had a chance to review the consent agenda
Yes.
already? All right.
I move that we approve the consent
So
agenda.
are there any changes or anything to the consent agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve the consent agenda for August 11th.
It's been
I second
moved. Do
that.
we have a second?
I second Sally B.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to. Thank you, Sally B. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 I know that I am experiencing some delays. I cannot. Thank you. I heard all of those, so we can move on. We have approved the consent agenda. That'll take us on to discussion and action items. Item 6.01 is a report from Dave Wyndham, Mason County Director of Community Services. Dave, are you with us? I see Dave in our participation log. Dave, you are muted
Here, I don't.
if you're unaware of that. There we go. Thank you,
Well,
Dave, for joining us.
Okay, so invited basically to answer questions that people have on school opening and on the decision matrix that the governor's office came out with. I'm sure everybody has had a chance to look at that. It's a three-part piece. And right now, if you were to take just our number of cases we have per day, per 14-day time period, we are in the high category. But that's not the only thing that the decision matrix talks about. So really, I'm just kind of here to hear your concerns and answer any questions you might have on that. And everything just stalled, it looked like.
Is there a board member that would like to go first with questions?
This is Carrie Davidson, and Dave, I appreciate you coming on today and just being a representative for the Department of Health. I know I'm on the Board of Health, so having participated in those meetings and with the school board, I understand you know, where we're at, but I do just appreciate all of the communications that we receive from you on the case rates and just the support that we do get, and the open communication between the schools and the health department.
Well, thanks. I think I could maybe frame what's going on now. I think that's probably what people are really interested in. What is going on now, and how does it look? How does it affect the school situation? So let me talk about that just a little bit. So right now, what we're seeing is our largest numbers of cases are in our lowest income populations. And in those populations, there are often cultures of large families and multiple families in single residences. So in some cases, they have almost like a 3-shift system going where one family is up and one family is sleeping and one family is working. And when COVID gets into situations like that, it tends to run through those groups pretty quickly. So we're seeing as many as like 8 cases in a single family. And again, that's our lowest income populations. It's the same situation that Yakima went through. We have conferred with Yakima on a number of, on how they dealt with it, because they had a very similar situation. But they had some significant differences in that the congregate living quarters were typically barrack style for immigrant fruit packers and pickers. They had large companies where a lot of people were working that drove that. And what we have is something different. We have people who are in small groups, work in the woods, come home to large families, large Sunday dinners, large communal gatherings, and that's where the COVID is spreading. We're putting out messaging in English and in Spanish and in MUM to try to talk to a number of these groups to address those cultural pieces that tend to drive the disease. And I think we're starting to make some progress on it. We went from 14 cases a day, we're back down to 5 to 6 cases per day, which is certainly an improvement. But really, for us to get to the medium risk, we've got to get below about 3.2 cases per day. And for us to get down to low risk, we've got to get back down to where we were before, which is 1.2 cases per day gets us to low. Where we were through April and May and early June was down around 0.75 cases per day. And that's where I'd like to see us get back to. And time will tell. This thing kind of has to run its course here for a little bit as those outreach efforts take place.
Dave, this is Alex Apostle, and I appreciate you being here this evening. What is your take at this point in time in respect to athletic competition and conditioning in our situation?
Well, the governor's office. Okay, the governor's office has some specific guidance on the conditioning piece, and I think you're going to be limited to 10 people at a time. And I don't know that there's going to be any competition, just because of the size of groups that would be together in close proximity. You've got people exercising heavily without a mask, and especially in competition situations, and that's what's going to drive more of an exposure. So let me define exposure as we define it, and that is contact at less than 6 feet, greater than 15 minutes, without masks. So those three things. So in a weight room, they've come out with some specific guidance about the square footage you need to have. And it's like 300 square feet. I have to look that up again, but I think it's 300 square feet around each person that's working out and lifting heavily. And as soon as the person is done lifting, then they need to put the mask back on. So that's going to be a little more difficult, I think. Outdoor training, I think, could be done, but you're going to have smaller groups and try to keep the social distancing. I mean, if you're over 6 feet, there's very little danger. In fact, I've asked the Department of Health to show me any cases of open air transmission, because I used an example. If a person is walking down a sidewalk towards another person, and an adult travels about 1.4 meters per second. So the amount of time that those two adults are within 6 feet of each other is 0.46 seconds. So using that as a guide, you have almost zero chance of open air transmission passing someone on a sidewalk. So I try to take that kind of an approach when I look at sport activities. Now, if you are football players and you are bumping up against each other and you're sharing spit and sweat back and forth, obviously that's gonna be more of a contact than people running track or some other sport like that. So it's kind of sport dependent. I can imagine one of the worst sports for transmission would be basketball.
So can I jump in here really quick? We had a discussion today in our conference, and currently right now, the only sports that we would take place, and we're still planning on taking place, is cross country, golf, and tennis. Those sports are all outside, and they have social distance parameters in them. We have decided that we are going to go ahead and still hope that we can participate, but we set a date today at September 1st. And if any one of the 4 counties that we compete with our conference in is still in a high risk, we would move those sports to the spring. So that's kind of the guidelines that we put out there. And, obviously we have to work with the Department of Health and everybody else to make sure that, that is still safe. So obviously football, soccer, and those other sports you're talking about, we are not participating in whatsoever. So I just want to make sure that we all work together, and we can hopefully have some fall seasons this year with the tennis, golf, and cross country. Cross country, for example, we would do staggered starts where the kids would have chips and they wouldn't have to stand next to each other in a starting line, and they would be spread out over that time. So again, just hoping that we can still continue with these sports. And we have a 3-week window where I believe 4 of the 5 counties right now are in a high risk state right now. And if they do not drop down to a moderate risk in the next 3 weeks, then we would suspend the seasons until the spring.
Suspend the cross-country, golf, and tennis until the spring?
Yes.
Okay.
So hopefully we're hoping we don't have to do that. But again, if we continue getting, in our county 20, 13 people a day, that's going to keep us in a high risk over the next 3 weeks. But if that goes down and the other counties with the other schools that we're competing against, if those go down, hopefully we can at least keep our kids in those 3 sports out.
So when you say spring, Trevor, are you saying season 3 or season 4? I'm just thinking some overlap, like with cross country and track, and
it would be season 3. So
Okay.
we wouldn't have anything overlapping. However, if there was somebody like our cross country team, or if there was like one of our tennis players, if they make it to state, they would have their state championships at the end of season 4. So the only way that would interfere is if I was a baseball player who played tennis and I made it to state in both, then there would be a conflict. But I'm sure the state WIAA would organize it that they didn't have the events on the same weekend. So we'd hopefully work that out. So, but safety for our kids is our number one priority. Our gym right now is 6,000 square feet. So if you take that 300 square feet per kid, that would limit us to 20 kids. That is the most amount of kids that we've had in the gym this entire time. So we've actually been under that. So we've been really trying to maintain that at all times. And then obviously making sure kids are lifting on their own platforms and cleaning up after themselves. So. And I know, sorry,
Sounds
Dr.
like it's all thank you to me.
I was going to say, I know this came up as a question as well. Are other schools in our conference doing conditioning right now? The only school that I heard of today that was not was Aberdeen, and that was their health department's decision. The health department told them that they could not do any school activities at this time.
Okay. Sandy, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Dave, I heard this from a large county in the area, a very large county, where the health department officer made the statement that they personally did not trust the validity of the metrics. Can you comment on that, please?
I don't know that I can comment on somebody else's trust level. You know, I use the metrics in all my planning efforts. I can talk a little bit about some discussions we had this morning with the Secretary of Health. One of the things that we're seeing is that of the 1 million plus tests that have come back negative, 200,000 of those, or 20%, have not yet been assigned. So what happens is we have artificially inflated positivity rates at the county level because we don't have the other negative cases being credited to our account, as you know, so to speak. So DOH is going to be reworking those numbers this week, and will be basically they've quit reporting since August 1st. So we kind of have to go in through the back door to get our metrics for the health department. But I'm thinking by Friday, they should have it fixed. They'll present the old number and the new number for a while until people kind of get a handle on why the data has changed.
Thank you.
This is Sally. I would just wondering about how is our Mason County Health Department aligning with the state health department as far as recommendations?
Okay, I'm not sure I fully understand that one. We use the governor's criteria and requirements that the governor's office has put out, you know, for whether it's for business reopening or for schools. We follow those. Now in the decision matrix, there's room for flexibility in there. For example, if you have a school that services kids that have you know, social justice issues as far as equity and access to schools, provisions can be made for those schools to open in a time when a higher category would apply. So for example, you can have a small rural school opening in high because they have the ability to address the situation and they're further from any kind of distance learning. Doesn't apply typically in the Shelton School District, but we do align with what the governor has to say.
Thank you. I'm on the Washington State School Directors Association board, and we had a discussion about this. In some counties, the county health department's recommendations don't match the state. And so there's a bit of a conflict and a bit of question about the liability that falls on the school district about who do they follow.
Okay, so if you look at the decision matrix, the decision authority rests with the school district unless the health officer has an overwhelming, I forget how they put it. sense of urgency about doing something more restrictive. So, and I think there are health officers that have done that, who've said that they make a recommendation. What we're doing is we're going to, the decision matrix is there for the schools to make their decision, and our health officer is going to back the schools in their decision-making process.
Thank you.
Are there other questions and comments from other board members? Okay, I don't see anybody else activating their mic. So do I understand correctly then, this is probably more a question for Trevor, if cross-country, golf, and tennis were to be moved, there's no remaining fall sports then? There would be nothing in the fall, correct?
Well, we do have the WIAA is allowing certain teams to have limited practices from September 27th until November 30th. So there would be a few teams that would want to get together as long as it's safe to and they follow the guidelines. But there would be no organized sports until December 28th.
I'm sorry, did you say September or December?
December 28th.
December 28th, okay. Thank you.
That would be the beginning of basketball, wrestling, and the other winter sports.
Yeah. And I thank you, Dave, for clarifying, because I had heard some concerns too about counties that may have, or counties and schools that were thinking differently than what the state guidelines were, but you've clarified that. So I thank you for doing that. And Mason County is in line with those directions and standards from the state. So thank you very much for clarifying. Any other comments or questions from board members, Dr. Apostle, other staff?
I would just like to thank Dave for all his hard work and all his support and for being here tonight. I know that he's always makes himself available when we have questions or concerns, and we appreciate that, Dave. And thank you.
Yes, absolutely, Dave. We know you're really busy.
No problem.
So thank you. So we'll let you go, and you can have a great rest of the night.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All righty. Next up is the status of opening of the schools and the planning with that. We've got a variety of principals and whatnot to give us an update. Thank you.
If I could, Sandy, just kind of introduce this this situation here, this presentation. I can tell you that our principals are doing an excellent job balancing everything that they have to review in order to start school. It's a huge task, more so than what meets the eye. Let me tell you that much. It's a big job. And the attitude of our principals has been, we know it's difficult, but we're going to continue on and we're going to work with our staff and we're going to make this thing work. And I'm very, very proud of them, very pleased with their performance. And I know they're going to take us to the start of school with things in order, and that the staff and the principals will work hard to make it a great year.
Thank you very much. So who's up first?
I think that'll be me, Mary Johnson.
Mary Johnson.
I'm here reporting for all 3 elementary schools, and we worked together to do this. So I just want to start off by saying thank you to the school board for this time tonight to share our current plans and the status for reopening of our elementary schools on September 2nd, 2020. I know I speak for my elementary administrative team when I say that we feel very lucky to have the support and collaboration of Dr. Apostle, our district cabinet members, and definitely our fellow 5 through 12 administrators in maneuvering the strange and unprecedented path of opening these schools this fall. Since the release of the subcommittee recommendations on July 15th, we have been very hard at work. Hannah, Amber, and I have met frequently throughout July, tackling the work that needs to be done head on. Our assistant principals have played a very important role in helping us with these plans. We can't do this work alone, and we wouldn't dream of doing it without our staff. We have met with our building leadership team several times over the past few weeks. Our main task of these leadership meetings has been to review the subcommittee recommendations, the guidelines, and to use these to create our building reopening plans. Our leadership representatives have been sharing this information with their teams and collecting ongoing ideas and questions from their teachers. From the time that we received the board approval and the decision to go 100% online for the start of the school year, we have focused our energy on the successful implementation and engagement of all of our students. We are so excited that the district selected an established program such as K-12 to use for our online teaching. Our teachers have started to explore K-12, and they are eagerly awaiting their training for the week of August 17th. They've learned a great deal about teaching online from their experience and the very hard work they put in this past spring. They look forward to applying that learning to this new platform. One of the biggest challenges that we experienced last spring was around engagement of students and families. All 3 elementary schools are using the recommendations from the Social Emotional Learning Committee, the work and recommendations that our counselors have done this past summer, as well as the MTSS structure to identify and apply strategies to increase engagement for all of our students. And along with that, we are working really hard in developing our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 interventions and supports for our students and families that may struggle. All 3 elementary schools are communicating with our families and staff through weekly robocalls and robo-emails. We all sent out our first weekly staff bulletin for the 2020-2021 school year this past week. We have scheduled our first elementary open forum for August 18th from 5:30 to 6:30. We strongly believe that a joint effort between all 3 schools is very important. We will communicate with our families this week to let them know that this is an opportunity and a time where they can ask questions. They can email us those questions prior to the meeting, or they can ask us questions in the chat during the meeting. While we know that we have a huge feat before us, we are confident that we will be ready. We thank you tonight for your time. Do you have any questions for the 3 of us?
Did I hear a time for the elementary open forum?
Absolutely. August 18th from 5:30 to 6:30.
5:30 to 6:30. I think that's
We're going to be streaming that because it's all 3 of our schools. We're going to actually stream it on our school district website. We all have our own new YouTube channels, but we wanted to make sure that we were just doing one. So we're going to stream it through the school districts.
That sounds marvelous. Questions or comments from other board members?
Teddy, I have one.
Go ahead.
I just want to say how much I appreciate that you guys are doing this as a joint effort. I think the communication that the community will get, will be great. Plus, I think just having that standardized across all 3 elementaries is going to help avoid some of that comparison from school to school and confusion on what the expectations are. So thank you for being thoughtful in doing that.
Thank you, Lynn. I will tell you that that has been one of the biggest blessings, I think, for all 3 of us in our years. I'll be in my 3rd year. Hannah will be in her 2nd, and Amber will be in her 1st. But we have all worked within different buildings in our district, and sometimes there has been this sense of competition. But we believe wholeheartedly that every child in this district belongs to all of ours, and every one of our schools is outstanding, and you should be happy and delighted to be at any of them. We do have some uniquenesses amongst us, but we all offer great things, and we all offer the same levels of programs. And you would be great anywhere you go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have one follow-up question. So You did mention that your teams are, identifying the families that maybe need special help or have special circumstances. Can you speak to that a little bit more and what that process looks like?
Absolutely. We certainly have some data from last spring around some of the big barriers, such as internet issues and just maybe some instability in homes. So some of our children who are McKinney-Vento. So we kind of, we want to be proactive in looking at this, but we also want to send a message to our families that this is new and different. So what we did last spring was great, but we learned from that, and we're going to be doing something that does look a little bit different. And we hope that all of our families will take the time to jump into it and get used to it before we start to maybe identify too many barriers. We certainly know that if we're talking about kids that don't have internet access, that's a barrier right off the bat. But we really hope that as families get into this a little bit, they find more success maybe than they did in the spring, and that will maybe alleviate some of those challenging needs. We're approaching this very similar to what we do just on a regular, in a traditional model, which is we have consistent programming for our students, and our teachers come in and they teach our children and they teach the curriculum and they differentiate when they can. And then when they've tried the tools in their toolbox and they're not sure what to do, they come back to the school, and through our student support teams, we begin to look at what interventions do we need to put in place. So we anticipate that we're going to follow that type of system this fall, and we're looking at kind of those supports in the area of what type of attendance things might be going on and what are the interventions that we can do. What are some of the areas around, again, not being able to connect? What are some of the barriers that families might be facing? What do we do about children who might be slightly squirrely? And so our tier 1 teams are going to be working on strategies that they can give teachers and parents that they could use just right off the bat and try at that level 1. And then we're going to be working deeper towards those tier 2, 3s. And those, we anticipate that those are the students with those unique challenges that Dr. Apostle has spoken about, that we probably will then be looking at something a little different. Did that answer your question?
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Sally.
So I know that a lot of parents, what they're thinking about is, what is a typical day going to look like? And you may not be to that point yet. I know that we're still fleshing out a lot of what this is going to look like for students and teachers and families, but are we in that process yet, or do we know maybe sort of loosely what a typical day might look like at the elementary level for students?
Well, I know we know more than we did a week ago, but I'm going to actually ask Hannah if she would like to step in. She spoke about this today. Are you comfortable with that, Hannah?
Sure. So we do know that there will be, so we're doing the 4 core, and Kelly, feel free to jump in on this as well. And so we talked with our teachers today about creating a schedule where kids will get ELA, math, science, and social studies, maybe not every day. There will be some direct, well, first of all, the day will start with a team meeting or a class meeting, and then there'll be some direct instruction, some work time where a teacher is available for extra help, a lunchtime, some recess type times, and then again, following up with the teacher after that for some direct instruction or possibly direct instruction from the expert teachers in the K-12 curriculum. So it will be a mix of in-person live teaching, work times, and also watching recorded lessons as well. We will each come up with a master schedule for each school. And we will communicate that to our families. So we won't know that probably for the open forum on the 18th, but right after the open forum, we'll be developing our master schedule as a school for each elementary. And then when we communicate with our parents to let them know who their child's teacher is following that training that we have that week, we will also give them the basic idea of what their daily schedule will look like. But it will pretty much, as far as, timing, it will follow the basic or the the sort of traditional timing of the school day. It just won't be face-to-face or screen-to-face that entire time. So there'll be some flexibility within that day. Does that give you a little bit of an idea?
Yeah, that helps a lot. And for those families where maybe it doesn't work for them for whatever reason, scheduling issues, to be, say, in a synchronous and a live class, will there be recordings available for them?
Absolutely. So anything that happens live will be recorded and available whenever people need it. That's definitely part of the plan.
Sally,
Awesome.
I'll just jump in
Thanks,
a tiny bit. Hannah, awesome job explaining that. The state is requiring us to have daily schedules for both teachers and students. So of course we'll give it to them, but we know that we need to be a little bit flexible with how it rolls out. So they will get something, and I think it'll be a surprise for a lot of people, but we're trying to make sure that we don't fill the day too full, because it is difficult for parents to get their kids all coordinated all at once. So they will get schedules though.
And Kelly, one of the things that we were talking about with the tiers, so Mary talked a little bit about the different tiers of support. So another layer of support for families and for students might be that the teacher actually works individually with the parent and the student online to help develop that schedule if it can't follow sort of the same schedule as the school, and that's a hard thing for the parent to figure out with the student. Then they can work with the teacher to figure out, okay, how are we going to fit all of this in a way that really works for you and your child, even if it doesn't follow the traditional schedule.
Yes, and we're using all of our the rest of our staff, every single EA or para teacher that, like maybe our art teacher or librarian, everybody's going to be attached to those kids. So I can definitely see the kids that are off schedule using those folks more than some of our other kids.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly.
I had a question too, and this is more kind of a logistical thing. And Mary, I really appreciate you reiterating the very first day of school being September 2nd, because as a parent with kids going to school, I have to constantly remind myself that that's not that far away. But I'm just wondering I know that you guys did kindergarten registration earlier in the year, but there's obviously going to be movement and people moving into town or people that still need to register. Whether you're a kindergarten student or just a new student in the Shelton School District, how do you register? And I know that people have had the question, and I appreciate the communication that if your student's already been in the Shelton School District, they're folded in, you don't really have to do anything. But my second part to that question is for people that are looking at the situation as it is with COVID, if they're thinking in their minds, I know I just want to be online all year long, do they have to designate that differently somehow? And those are my two questions. How do you register? And then do we designate things differently?
So Mary, I'll answer that. And then Kelly, if you would jump in for the year long. But right now, Carrie, online, we have, well, first of all, our secretaries are just returning to the buildings. And they will have some work that they will do in their space, in their building space, and then they will have some work that they will be able to do from home. One of the things that they're doing when they're in the building is they are following up with families through email and through voicemail messages that have been left to set up appointments for registration. So they're following up on all of the kindergarten registrations that were either partially turned in or just people that had asked questions about kindergarten registration before we went on summer break. And so they're following up with all of those people, and then any new registrations, they're also setting appointments starting on August 17th. So registration is by appointment only to make it safe for our secretaries and our families to be able to come in one at a time. So we won't have open office hours, but we will have registration by appointment. All of their emails, all of their phone numbers, all of that information is on the website on the registration or enrollment page. And so they just email or call the school that they're registering at, and then we follow up with them and set up an appointment. And it's been working out really well, because a lot of times what will happen is people will come in with partial paperwork and then they have to come back, and the nice thing is that our secretaries are doing a really nice job of letting them know exactly what they need to bring in. So it's like one stop, they come in, they register, everything's done, and then they're good to go. So it's been pretty streamlined.
Okay.
It's been better than it's ever been. It's exciting to see the numbers of kids that we have coming into kindergarten already is just pretty exciting.
Well, and that was another question I had. I was just curious because I would imagine if I were a parent of a kindergartner who was maybe one of these late August birthdays, you might wonder, do you wait? Do you not? And with COVID, maybe you'd wait. So I was wondering how the registration, if we're looking about the same or slightly less or more. I don't, obviously we don't know yet.
We're looking slightly higher actually at this point in the year than we were last year, which is interesting. So we have more, and I think part of that is because of the fact that we did a real a concerted effort before we finished school to get the word out to families to get registered. And like I said, the secretaries did it by appointment. So they were able to actually follow up on every single registration packet that was sent out, which is not necessarily something that they would do in sort of normal operations. So we have, I think, almost 90 kids registered already for our kindergarten, which is pretty high.
Yeah, wow.
And just between the online registration and registration packets that got delivered just recently at district office, I think we had like 8 kids register for kindergarten. So definitely the numbers are seem to still be coming in, which is great.
Yeah. Thank you for that update. And Kelly, did you have something to say about the designation with all year online?
Yes, Terry. So right now I've been directing most people, you're already in the district, so you're already really enrolled. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll be sending out, we're going to do a survey and to make sure that we know exactly how many people want to commit to the full year. I want them to know the difference. And so I'm working on making a visual so that they can understand what you're committing to with one and what you're committing to with the other. So right now, if their students are already enrolled in the district, they're almost done. They just have to push a button telling me yes or no.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kelly, will there be some flexibility later on? So say this all goes away and we go back to school as normal, but maybe there's a family that's found, wow, this online thing really works for us and we'd like our student to continue with that. Will there be some flexibility later for them to say, hey, we didn't think we were opting in at the beginning, but can we opt in now?
Sure, we'll just be changing their designation because one will be ALE and one will not, but that's just in their designation and how it's funded. So yes, they certainly can. I would anticipate we might lose some one way and some the other. So yeah, they totally will.
So does it not work or are they locked in? Can they opt out if they're doing online and then start experiencing difficulties?
They can come back to us, Sally. I just want the initial placement. I want their initial feel if they're going to want to go all year because OSPI is really particular about that. We can't just say our online program is ALE if we're going all year or if we're just doing it for 6 months or whatever. So when we designate ALE, they pretty much are committing to the year, but if they decide that's a mistake and want to come back out of that when we're face to face, totally okay.
Great. I've seen some different models that districts are talking about as far as delivering instruction. And I'm wondering if you've gotten that far in the process yet about will the teachers be in their classrooms so that it visually feels like the students are in a classroom, or have we gotten there?
Some will be, Sally. The ones that feel comfortable coming in and the ones that need their classroom. A lot of folks need their classroom for it. So they need the board, they need the space, they need the projectors, they need all that. Then some who, for health reasons or they don't feel that they need that, they have that set up at home, they can use that too. But we're working on, making sure everything looks professional and we're not being interrupted, that we're actually teaching our whole day.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Or comments? I have a question. Let's assume that the online option continues. Let's say it goes well into winter and we have what we would normally have as a snow day. We wake up and it's all icy and it's snowy and we can't get to work, but we're doing online. Now, if we have some teachers still coming to the buildings, does that change our definition of a snow day at all?
That is a very good question.
I was just going to say, Sandy, you've asked a whole new question we haven't contemplated. This is why we love everybody giving us ideas.
If they still instruct, if there's still something going on that day because they're still working on assignments and things like that, it can be counted. OSPI was pretty clear about it today on the thing that I sat in on. They had even gone down the road of, oh, if they're working on a Saturday, maybe you could count that, although that's a little bit out there. But I would think it might save us our snow days. I would hope so.
So just speaking from experience, I've never had a snow day in the online school. We've sometimes we have technology days, but not snow days.
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
A technology day. Okay.
Well, I think that was one of the reasons it was really wise for us to adapt our calendar a little bit and add extra time at the end, because, you know, we've given ourselves some flexibility to deal with things that arise.
And I'll ask one other question. Are we discovering any unique considerations between the elementary schools?
Amber, would you like to take this one?
I'll take that one. Yes, so we do have a lot of differences at the elementary schools. Specifically at Evergreen, we have some unique differences. Definitely trying to maintain our dual language program has been interesting challenge, but my teachers have been working really hard to prepare for this. Like Kelly talked about at the open forum, we're going to be using the Maravillas curriculum to supplement, so students are still getting that exposure to the dual language strands, which is really important. Every teacher that I have talked to in that building has a true passion for connecting with the parents and the students and doing whatever it takes to make those connections happen. So it's been really, really enlightening to be a part of that and join and be on board.
Righty, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from other board members?
I'm just very impressed and hopeful, and look forward to the year. There's been so much work done already, and I know there'll be adjustments along the way. I really appreciate how the three elementaries are working together, especially in this time. We all need some support, and so I'm glad that that's there for the administrators of those schools. And just like we've said in our discussion here, oh, did we think of this? Did we think of that? It really helps. And I'm just hearing some great things, and I'm looking forward to this all coming to fruition. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
All righty. I assume then we're finished with the elementary schools, and maybe we can move on to the middle school.
Yes. So I'm Chelsea Brady. I'm the principal at the middle school. So good evening. As I shared with my staff and families in my robocall this week, I'm really excited about the progress that we're making on our plans for the start of school. So together, we're going to do everything we can to make this a good experience for students and for families, and to ensure a strong academic program during stage A remote learning, and of course, throughout the year with our reopening plan. So tonight I'm going to share with you just where we're at in our planning phases and some of the progress that we're making in our building. So one of the most important planning elements has been ensuring communication and collaboration like Mary spoke to, amongst our district administration. We've been working very closely together amongst our OMS staff and of course with our families. So as soon as this decision was made for remote learning and the plan was approved by the school board, we got to work on this. So on July 29th, the day after the decision was approved by the school board, we had a staff meeting. We reviewed the reopening plan together as a staff. We broke up into teams with our team leaders helping to lead their groups. We created a shared document that we're still using that's serving as kind of a parking lot where people can put their questions, their concerns, their thoughts, ideas that they have. As already mentioned, I mean, we can't think of all those little details. Like you guys just mentioned, what happens on a snow day? That's a great question. So we have this parking lot developed where as people are thinking of things at 2 a.m. when they wake up in the morning, they can jump on that shared document and add it on there. We have been answering those questions for staff in our weekly bulletin, and then we keep checking back on that so that we can answer additional questions. The goal is just to really stay united with our staff and keep that communication going. So on top of that, we're also doing drop-in sessions. We have one tomorrow morning where my assistant principal and I will be on Zoom throughout the hour. Staff can drop in and ask us questions or just, hey, I was thinking about this. So again, just giving lots of opportunities for communication with our staff. We also restarted our weekly bulletin. We started that the first week in August just so that we could get updates out to our staff and keep them informed. Our staff is familiar with this. That's what we do throughout the normal school year, September to June, but we started early so that people could feel like they're really part of what's going on and stay up to date because as we all know, things continue to change, right? We also are doing our weekly robocall and email. So that goes out to staff and to our families. And again, the day after the school board approval of our new plan, I actually reached out to our families and staff with a robocall just so that they could hear that decision from me as the building principal. I tried to kind of get in front of, this is the decision, this is why and how the decision was made. And just address some of the concerns head on that I knew that people had. I wanted to just reassure parents and our families that this is the right decision. And although a very difficult one, this is how we keep our staff and our families safe. And I also just addressed head on that this will be better than the spring. So I know that we are all saying that, but this will be very different. And I think that that's important for our families to hear. Our teachers worked incredibly hard in the spring, but we were throwing into 3 weeks, we got to get online. We've had a lot more time to prepare. We have a great curriculum. It will be very different. We wanted to make sure our families understood that. So I'm continuing to do our weekly robocalls and providing those updates to families and just keeping, again, that communication open. This Thursday, August 13th, from 6 to 7, we have our OMS Community Forum. So as Mary mentioned, this will be an opportunity specifically for OMS families to get on and ask questions and just have a more personalized conversation. So we're really looking forward to that. And we're going to be offering another one on August 20th. We've been meeting with different groups of people within our staff. So one of those groups is our intervention teachers. And also our specialists, our PE exploratory teachers. So as you guys know, we are doing the 4 core subjects. So that does mean that we have some teachers that will be folded into that because their particular content will not be taught. So we met with them as soon as that decision was made so that they would know, hey, you will be folded into this. Let's start working on what your role, what your position is going to look like. We've had some great meetings with them. Our intervention teachers will still be providing intervention to our students. So they'll be doing small group instruction connected with our gen ed classes. And then right now we're continuing to work with our specialist teachers. We're lucky because we actually have a few teachers that have had general education experience and have that endorsement. And so we're looking at them actually taking on some of those K-12 classes. So that's exciting and we're working with them. We're hoping to make a decision in the coming week. So we're going to go through our training next week for K-12 and then meet with them again. We have also been working with our office staff. So we've been meeting with them weekly. and making sure that we stay on top of all of the little details, right? So how does this decision impact scheduling, attendance, our building budget? How can our office staff support our families during this? And our office staff was amazing in the spring. One of our secretaries even had a cell phone, a school cell phone, and she would call some of our families that needed help getting on Zoom. And she would make that call every morning and walk them through it. Or a student that was at home alone, she would call and say, hey, don't forget, today is your small group. I mean, they were fantastic. They did everything they could to contribute in the spring. And so what we've been talking about with them is what their role might look like come this fall. Of course, we've also met with our paras. We're doing a weekly meeting with them and looking at what their role is going to look like. I was incredibly proud of our paras in the spring. They were extremely active, and some of them said, I feel like I'm working even more hours with school closed, because they were getting to know, you know, this online platform and how do I use Zoom? And they took the time to find that out for themselves and work together to make sure that they could make a difference. So some of the things that they did in the spring, they worked with our special education teachers, and through their direction, they provided some specially designed instruction in small groups and even one-on-one over Zoom to some of our special ed students. So we will definitely be using them again for that. That worked out really well. But we'll also use them for small groups for other at-risk students or students that have barriers like we spoke about earlier. When we do get to a point where some of the students might be able to be served in school, as we mentioned, you know, we're looking at what their role might be in that as well. So beyond the communication and collaboration that we've been trying to make sure we do every day, we are also working on our professional development for our staff to make sure that we are ready for that high level of instruction and support to our students. So of course, as Mary mentioned, we all have our K-12 training. So OMS teachers and our counselors will be trained next week on August 18th. So we're looking forward to that. There's so many discussions we have that we say, well, let's wait till we see it and we dig into it, and then we're going to talk again. And so we have our training on the 18th, and then we've already planned to do a follow-up staff meeting on August 19th, the day after, while it's fresh. You know, what did this make you think of? How do you think this is going to work? You know, what ideas did you have? Because I know our teachers are super excited to see it and be trained in it. And so we want to give that opportunity to debrief with one another and plan. So we have a great MTSS building team. So MTSS, multi-tiered system of support. So that team at our building in a traditional model when we're open is involved in creating school-wide systems that support students academically, behaviorally, social, emotionally. So this team works toward improving our school culture, providing training for staff on best practices around building relationships and classroom management and working with behavior. And then we also are constantly evaluating our systems to remove barriers for student success. So that team is vital when our schools are open and will be vital during this remote learning time. So we're going to be meeting with them next week, and we're going to be looking at all of these functions of our team, and of course with that distance learning lens. So how do we take all of these things that we typically do when our school is open for our students and for our staff and make sure that we can still accomplish that during distance learning. I know for next week, one of the areas we're really going to focus on is building relationships. So we're going to be, Madeline and I, my assistant principal and I have been pulling together some resources and materials that we're going to be reviewing with our team. And then we're going to put together a training that our team, our teachers will actually lead for the rest of our staff on the 27th. And it will be all around building relationships with students online, because that is going to be so important. One of my favorite quotes is, there is no significant learning without a significant relationship. And that is so true. So we know, especially in this online format, that we have to connect with our students. You know, for our incoming fifth graders, they haven't met our teachers yet. So we're really going to have to be intentional and work hard to connect with them and engage them. It's a steep hill, but we are going to climb it. So we're going to work on that next week with our team. We, of course, have been working with our leadership team. We have met with them frequently starting in July and met with them weekly since. So one of the things that makes OMS unique is that we have established interdisciplinary teams. So we really feel like that's something unique about OMS, that kids get to be on teams. So within a team, you really get to know your students. So from a teacher standpoint, you get to know your students, you work with the other teachers on your team, and you collaborate on how can I help this kiddo, what works for you, how can we engage them together as a team. They plan fun activities for their kids. And then of course, students within that team build relationships with one another. And so we've seen really great benefits and outcomes to having those teams in school. So what we're saying is, how can we bring that online? If we know that that's good for kids in school, then we want to find a way to make that work online. And so to adapt that to our stage A remote learning, we are going to have 2-person teams. So as we know with the 4 core subjects, we'll have a teacher that's teaching math and science and a team teacher that's doing ELA and social studies. So we'll have the same benefits that we just mentioned earlier, where these teachers will be able to collaborate with one another. The kids will get to know each other. They have a team name. I think it'll be really great. We're excited that we're going to be able to bring that to online learning. There'll be a smaller teacher to student ratio. So we feel like that'll really allow for more academic support, a closer connection. And then we really think it'll be better for students to not have to try and navigate through 4 different teachers. So this is new to them too. We want to make it easy. And so we're thinking having the 2-person teams would be the best way to go about that. And then the great part is, when students do return to OMS in that hybrid or blended model, those teachers that they've had online, those will be those same teachers when they go back to school. So this Thursday, our leadership team is placing students onto teams, and we're going to be breaking them down into those smaller parts like we just talked about. They'll be with those 2 teachers during remote learning, and then when we come back, they'll join their bigger team. They'll have built relationships with their teachers and other students. And so we're just excited that we can bring that to online learning. And we feel like that's really going to help with the transition when we come back to school as well, because of course we're already thinking about that too. So we are working on developing our master schedule. We've been meeting with our leadership team about that. We're hoping to finalize that on Thursday when we meet again. So this master schedule will be shared with parents to follow if it works for them and their child. It'll make it very clear when the live lessons are, when they can receive academic support from their teachers, and just give a more structured schedule for students to follow during the day. But as we already mentioned earlier, of course, all of the live lessons will be recorded, and students will have an opportunity to get academic support outside of those traditional hours. So we want to provide that structure and schedule for those that would really benefit from that, but of course we will still be flexible. So we're also planning an orientation for incoming students. We want to make sure that the kids transitioning into 5th grade, they're in a unique situation where they've never been in our school because we just closed right at that point where we were starting transition activities. So we have, of course, reached out to those families. We sent some things out to them in June to help them know some of their teachers, but we're going to pick that up again and start getting them oriented to OMS. We want to do some transition activities online for our 5th graders going into 6th, and then look at providing some support to our families that might need it for technology. So we're finalizing those plans over the coming week. And then, as mentioned earlier, continuing to review that criteria for students and families that might have barriers to success during remote learning. So Kelly touched on this a little bit, that a survey is going to be coming out. One of those questions, of course, that she mentioned is, are you planning to do the virtual academy all year long? But we're also going to be asking questions like, do you need some tech support? Do you need orientation to get to know your Chromebook or other types of tech support? Also, do you have any connectivity issues? So some of those questions that's going to be coming out in that district survey is also going to help us drill down our criteria for students that may need some different types of support during remote learning. So our leadership team has been hard at work. We really appreciate that group of staff. So these are our plans and ideas so far. Thank you so much for listening. And then of course, just your support to our district. And I just have to say that having this decision made early enough to actually plan and prepare has made a world of difference. I know we were one of the first districts to, just go for it and make the decision. And it was incredibly difficult. But now that's given our staff time to process and plan and prepare, and us as administrators and as a district. So I'm just thankful for that. I'm thankful for our staff at OMS, and they have shown over and over again that they can be creative and innovative in difficult situations. So I know that they will be this coming fall as well. So that's all I have for you. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Questions from board members? I know we kind of asked a lot of procedural questions in the elementary session. So
I will jump in. I just want to thank Chelsea, first of all, for putting relationships at such a forefront for what you're talking about. I don't hear that as often, and you really touched on that a lot. And of course, I have two hats here. I am a school board member, but I have a fifth grader who's going into the sixth grade. So as a parent and a school board member, I really appreciated you getting in front of the communication. I did get the early email from you right after our decision was made. And then just recently I received the robocall and the email that came with that as well. And having those direct communications are excellent. And then I have also seen from all of the schools, the social media, that just on social media, the forums being advertised. So I appreciate that too. And for other parents out there like me that have students now in two different schools, make sure you sign up for that social media page for your new school so you start getting those notifications. I still get things from Mountain View too, because I never got off of their page, but I enjoy seeing things from all of the schools. But Chelsea, you went through everything really well, just like the elementary school presentation. I really appreciate your positivity. I appreciate all of the communication that's going on and how you can even visualize how this is going to transition from being virtual to being a hybrid to potentially and hopefully full-time face-to-face. So I'm very excited and very hopeful, as Sally Brownfield mentioned earlier. Thank you for your presentation as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from other board members?
Yeah, Chelsea, I just wanted to say, I work in communication, so I know how difficult it is sometimes to communicate, especially internally. That's one that we tend to forget. We tend to focus our communications outwardly and forget about the people who have to make this happen. So all the things that you're doing to keep your staff and teachers in the loop, and your office where, you're considering everybody. And I think that's just super important. I've had a couple conversations with teachers who are feeling some anxiety about not knowing what's expected of them and haven't gone through the training yet. And so, just not really sure how this is going to look. So I think it's just an excellent example for all of our schools to be thinking about. Let's, over communicate internally and give our teachers as many opportunities to ask questions. And it's just excellent to hear, and glad you're doing that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a great system set up, and I love the pairing of teachers. I know that's something that you do already with the teaming at OMS, but having two teachers that the students are relating to, I think that's really going to help with the relationship. It's something similar to what's done in my younger son's online middle school. So I've seen it work really successfully. So I'm really excited about that. And I think the teachers will enjoy it too. It's nice having a partner to work with. I did have a question. This might be more for Kelly. With the online classes with the synchronous instruction, what platform are we using for that? Is it going to be the same across all the schools? Are we using Zoom like we did last time, or are we using something that K-12 is providing?
K-12 has a system for us, Sally. They say they do. Our training, like everyone has said, is next week. but they've reassured me it's very, very similar to Zoom. You can record it, you can post it there. It's supposed to be fine. I feel pretty confident though that if we had to mix a little bit to pull something in, almost everybody anymore is so familiar with Zoom that that it would be okay. But yeah, they've reassured us that they have something that will do that.
Okay. Do you know, is it Blackboard or is it going to be Neuro?
It's not Blackboard, so it might be the other one. They have their own name for it, I thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kelly, I was looking at that actually today, and they kept referring to it as Connect. So,
okay, so Class Connect.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So it's hard to say then which will be the actual thing that we'll use behind it. Okay, great. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. We're just learning.
Yeah. I was just curious if we were gonna use Zoom or if we were gonna have something a little bit more robust and powerful. So it sounds like we're gonna be using what they have. So that will be, I think the teachers will find it's a lot nicer.
Yeah, they said they're real-time polls. There's a lot of different stuff that you can do with it. So I'm excited to see what they've got.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I think the sound of the real-time polls, I see some potential there for using that with students, parents, staff. So I think that's a very nice feature. Any other questions or comments? All right, then I think we thank you, Chelsea, for your presentation on OMS. Did you have anything at this point, Dr. Apostle, or you wait until the end?
Yes, please. Thank you. I have a few comments, but I'll wait till the end.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and move on to the junior high.
Well, hello. My name is Mario Juves, and I am the new principal serving the OBJH community, Go Bay. At our school, we actually are going to have, I'm the new principal there, and then we have a new assistant principal. And I can tell you right now that Rachel, who's the new assistant principal, and I have spoken, and it is truly an honor to be there because we have an amazing group of people. And I want to start off by saying that because I've identified some key things I want to update you on. And I can tell you right now that it is the hard work of everybody from our custodians, all the way to our teachers, all the way to everybody that's making this happen. So I could sit here for hours, honestly, and talk to you about everything we're doing. Instead of doing that, because I'm sure people want to go home at some point, or more accurately, get off Zoom at some point, I picked some key areas to focus on. So I can tell you what those are real quick. The first one is our master schedule process. The second one is I want to update a little bit of what our counseling program has been doing. A little bit what we've been doing with our leadership, excuse me, our leadership team and our teachers. And then I want to talk a little bit about equity and employment and community engagement and what we're doing in those areas. So let me start off with the master schedule. We also will be doing the core 4. And just like the elementary and OMS, all of our teachers will have, an active equitable role in teaching this year. Right now, where we're at in the process is we are very fortunate in the fact that the teachers, counselors, and the administrators from last year did a phenomenal job of creating a master schedule. So for the purposes of the master schedule, we're going to call that one Stage C master schedule. That's the one that is going to come into play once we are all back at school, not hybrid. We're just back to normal, but hopefully enhanced normal, where we apply the things that we've learned through this process and carry it forward into our education beyond just this year. So with the Stage C schedule, in our conversations, we think it's important that we minimize the number of changes, the number of disruptions to the teachers and the students as possible. So where we're at right now, and we're still in discussions, but where we're at right now is we are going to be using the Stage C, the master schedule for when we return back full time, as our template for Stage A and Stage B. So the schedule for when the kids are virtually learning and when we go to a hybrid model. So within that, what we have is the core 4 classes are already scheduled out. But then that leaves the elective classes and of course the WIN classes that we have to take a look at to see what we're going to do there. So right now there are some conversations happening with that. We're looking at everything from, do we want to use that time to create enhanced social emotional support and instruction for our students? Do we want to incorporate some of the things that the kids are doing without when they're in the virtual or hybrid model, which is that leveled age development of socialization interaction? Do we want to create structured activities where the kids can actually interact with each other to build those skill sets? Those are all things that we're still discussing right now, but I can tell you that that conversation is going to include our entire community. We are working with our leadership team. We will be starting to have our meet and greets with our teachers this week, actually tomorrow. And we are committed to hearing everybody's point of view. So right now, I do not have an answer for what that's going to look like, but we feel that it would not be a good idea to just completely redo a brand new schedule for stage A and B. And then when we get back to stage C, just, you know, okay, now we're gonna do this whole new other schedule. We wanna keep the transition as smooth as possible. We also, of course, will be using K-12. And because K-12 will be used during stage A and stage B, we think it's an imperative that's gonna be a change that's gonna happen when they go to stage C, going back to our school curriculum. So we don't wanna add any more changes to that than we have to. In the scheduling process, we have a great team. Our office staff has been super supportive. We're thinking outside the box on different ideas to make sure that we get kids populated into schedules and be able to know more accurately, you know, which kids are going to be with what groups and which kids are going to be in what classes, so we can really get that information to our teachers to begin that process of getting to know the kids. We also at OBJH believe that it's important to build relationships. That's something I know Rachel and I believe strongly. I will tell you that when I was assistant principal at Shelton High School, I used to tell people that if I walk in your class the first 3 or 5 days and I see you doing activities to build community, to me, that's an effective use of instruction time. That's a key part, because as someone said, you can't have learning unless you have a good relationship, okay? With the counseling program with our teachers have done a great job. Before the end of the year, the school developed T-Wolf Camp, which is a virtual summer camp where the kids go online, they could see different activities. This was all done by the faculty and staff of the school. One of our counselors is very good with technologies, and she basically created this virtual campground that the kids could use. She also taught me how to do Bitmoji, which my friends and family are not very happy about because I'm now addicted to it, but we'll move on from that. I share that story with you because of the fact that the school itself is already committed, thinking outside the box and thinking about the possibilities what the virtual world can bring to education once we return back to stage C. In a meeting today with the counselors, we've been looking at how can we expand community involvement in this virtual time? What about a virtual open house? I've had conversations with Rachel and with other people about, can we create virtual spaces for example, our EL families to engage with our students? Can we partner with churches or groups outside in the community to where it would be easier for them to go to be able to access that technology so they can come into our school community, right? And that would be stuff that we would want to carry on as we move back into that stage C. I will let you know also that we are also looking at, besides the open house, other ways of being able to take the technology that K-12 provides to be able to extend it so that all of our Timberwolves, our families and our teachers and our students are familiar with the platform so that we can make the best use of it. So those are conversations happening now. The leadership team has been meeting since July. This is an amazing leadership team. Everyone has come to the plate, stepped forward, and honestly, I'm truly thankful for them and for everybody, because it really does take a village. And the work they've been putting in has been excellent, and it's really helping us move forward in creating a plan that has the least amount of disruption possible for our students and our families. One of the things that I will say is that we are all about ideas. One of the things that Rachel and I want to communicate to our faculty and staff in our community is that everything should be on the table. Ideas, experiences. Only through more collaboration and more ideas can we find the best possible path forward. And then when we find that, be prepared to adjust to the things that we learn from it. One of the key things that Rachel and I believe is the idea of equity in employment. So when she and I started talking in June, we talked about the fact that, they don't know who we are. And it's not really fair for them to get to know us like right before school starts or when we're having a training session. We need to get to know them and they need to get to know us. So even before the decision was made to go virtual, she and I committed to creating meet and greet meetings to where our faculty and staff can come and meet with us. We're having our first one tomorrow, and it's voluntary, but it really is about us getting to know each other and for us to learn more about what it means to be a Timberwolf, what it means to be part of the Bay, and then for them to get to know us, because we believe that effective collaboration occurs, as we've mentioned before, when good relationships are built. And we are also taking this philosophy to our community. So we will be hosting on Thursday, first of 3 OBJH Open Community Forums. And I would like you all to know that we're committed to equity in every aspect. Because I speak Spanish, I will tell you now that we will have a means by which our Spanish-speaking families can submit questions and get responses in Spanish. So it's gonna, like I said, we have the best plans always need revisions, and this is gonna be a good model for our teachers in our community, and the fact that we're gonna do the best we can, and we'll learn stuff, and we'll do better next time. But we will be providing as much opportunity for all members of our community to give feedback during the community forum that we're gonna be having. Beyond that, I would like you guys to know as well that when I say everybody is doing their part, I wanna give a shout out to our custodians. They have been doing a great job as always. But one of the things that I've done is reached out to them, and I would like to I've offered, and we are going to start meeting so I can learn more about how can we support them in making sure that they're doing what they need to do to make sure that they're creating the environment that supports us. And what can we as the administration, what can we as a school community do to support them in that effort? That's a philosophy that Rachel and I have that I'll be carrying out throughout my time at OBJH and my time in education. It's leadership through service, and that's what we're committed to. One of the things we tell people is we don't have all the answers, but we do commit to you to getting you those answers. Every time a community member has reached out to me so far, I have contacted them and set up a callback appointment, either by phone, by email. I tell them if you want carrier pigeons, we can make that work, fine. But they have at least they have a time in a day where they know they're going to hear from me. And that's our commitment, is to make sure that everyone knows that your questions and the things that your ideas will be heard, and we will be in communication with you. So the big umbrella of all this is that we want to make sure that we are modeling not only for ourselves as a community, as a school, but also for the greater Shelton School District, the idea of it does take a village, and that no matter what your role is, your voice and your thoughts have a place. And through that process, we believe that although the answers are not here now, they will come and we will move forward. I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank my fellow administrators, both principals and assistant principals. I can tell you now that I've called quite a few of them, being brand new administrator. They have stepped up to the plate. They have been those people who model what I've just said. I could name them all, which all of them have, in one way or another, have supported us. I can tell you that Chelsea, every time I call her, she answers her phone, and I'm thankful for that. And even working with Bruce recently on a particular pilot that we've been working on to get going between SHS and OBJH with the NJROTC program, I'm happy to say that we've been approved. So I'll be working with Bruce and their team to make sure that we have the best possible implementation of that under the conditions that we're at. So at this point, I'm happy to hear your questions, and I hope I didn't speak too long.
Thank you. It was all very good information. Questions or comments from other board members?
I'll jump in again and say thank you as well, because my oldest daughter is moving over to OBJH. So, so go Bay. That'll be the first time I've actually said that. But thank you again. I mean, it's very clear that you, I mean, I'm sitting here as a parent and a school board member feeling very hopeful about all of the plans that I'm hearing. There's obviously a lot of planning and communication and preparation. And, you know, that's one thing we're all realizing right now, is that each day you wake up and you might have intentions to do one thing and you get information and things go another way. But I'm very impressed with everything that I'm hearing and the positivity behind it. and the inclusiveness and the willingness to just, you know, give this our all, because this is the environment that we're in, and, you know, the best foot forward that we can put out there for our kids. I just think it's going to be great. So I just very much appreciate that. I appreciate the communication that I also got from you through the email that came, and I also saw and signed up for the forum. I think I've got back-to-back forums. So my husband and I will be listening in on that. And again, thank you very much for reaching out to parents in that way. The more communication that's out there, and the more avenues that it comes, even if it sounds repetitive to us that are doing it, you know, that always is new to some parents that are finally hearing it for the first time. So thank you.
If I could add one thing, you just remind me of something. So just so everyone knows, one of the things that we're doing is recording. We're going to have it broadcast on YouTube, and we're recording it because we want to make sure that if people aren't able to attend, or if they have a conflict because, you know, they've got things going on, that they don't miss out on the opportunity to be able to actually hear the questions and the responses. And then, as always, we provide our contact information. One of the things that I want to work on for the next one with the team is to expand the ability for our EL families to be able to present their questions live and get responses live. We are a bit limited this time, but regardless, my communications with them, I do send my messages. I send my messages to them in Spanish. Throat is dry. I send my messages to them in Spanish, and in those messages, I do let them know the fact that I am a Spanish speaker and that they can reach out to me via phone or email in Spanish, and I can reply back to them. We're looking for ways to expanding that to get that greater reach out to our EL families. And specifically, one of the things that we would like to do is look at ways of, like I mentioned earlier, being able to bring them into the school without necessarily having people have to arrive at the school, because we know that's something that for some of those families, it is a barrier, and we want to work on removing that. And I would say, again, this is all a learning experience for us. And like I told Rachel today, it's like, you know what, we're going to make mistakes, but guess what? The way we are resilient, we bounce back, is going to be what we expect of our teachers and our kids. And that's the only way we're going to learn, is by actually just learning from, you know, thinking you're doing the best thing you can. Something goes wrong, guess what? We adapt, we fix, we move forward.
Thank you very much. Other staff members, other board members with more questions?
Well, one thing I've heard from, I think, all groups so far, is the whole idea of we're planning for whatever scenario we end up with. And so planning with that stage C, and then going back to B and A, and being ready is so important. And Mario, always love your energy and your can-do attitude, and let's push forward. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm surrounded by a great team of people who keep that energy going. So thank you.
Much. Any other comments or questions? All righty. Seeing none, thank you very much, Mario, for your updates. And that will conclude the junior high, and we'll move on now to Choice High School. Is Choice going to present separately or in conjunction with Shelton High School?
We're presenting separately. Hi, Sandy. This is Stacy Anderson, principal for Choice, Cedar, and Mason County Detention Center. And also on the Zoom is Amber Hosford, our assistant principal. So thank you all for allowing us to speak to you tonight. I will try to keep mine relatively brief, but there are a few key points I want to hit. For this upcoming school year, we are doing what everybody else is doing and really planning for several contingencies. We are meeting regularly with our team leaders, and then also weekly with our staff. All of the teachers and staff are invited to these Zoom meetings so that we can plan to effectively serve our students in the fall. We also will be doing the K-12 curriculum like the rest of the district. At high school, since we're the first high school to go, I will let you know that it's a little different as far as our content areas. We do plan to provide a full day of credits that are required for graduation for the students. Last spring, we did cut down that course load in order to deal with the pandemic as it affected us at that point. But this fall, we will having students enrolled in a full course load. So similar to the other schools, we are planning on how we are going to be changing our master schedules to be able to do that. We are hoping to have students as much as possible in the classes that they were already assigned to be into. And we've been collaborating with the Shelton High School registrar and department there with Dina Alley quite a bit also, to be able to make sure that we have the same course codes and everything, and that we're offering all of the items out of K-12 that the students need to be able to graduate. In addition to a rigorous course of curriculum, we will also be offering a daily advisory for each of our students, as we know that the students that come to our schools often really rely on that relationship building in our small school. So advisors will be meeting with students on a daily basis and making sure that they are connected with in order to be able to provide them for all the support they need. Like the other schools, one of our biggest concerns is the students who may not be able to always access everything online, or the students who maybe have some, things going on at their homes that make it difficult for them to access the curriculum. So we are looking at ways with our counselors who've done a great job over the summer in supporting students for their social and emotional needs, and also looking at how we can reach out specifically to those students who didn't engage last spring and who we know might be struggling this fall, especially as seniors, who we often get some seniors who are behind, not just seniors, but students who are behind in credit. So we'll be looking on how we can support those students. We will also be utilizing at Choice and Cedar some of our supplementary materials as needed to make sure students can do credit recovery if they're behind in credits. So we've been really moving forward on the planning for all of that. Like other schools, we are working on our communication with our families. So we do have our forums tomorrow night for Cedar at 5:30 and Choice at 6, and we'll be just answering questions from parents. Because of the timing of the pandemic, we did not have all of our students registered for Cedar in the spring like we'd hoped. So we are still recruiting students, and for Choice, we always have students who register a little bit later than expected. So that's something we are trying to make sure we get information out to families on how to register. We've been sharing it around with the other secondary schools around the district, and we're sharing it out on Facebook, the district websites, to make sure parents know how to register with us. We will have an orientation for our families that we've already planned. For some students, they'll be doing a virtual orientation if they are new to our school. And then for other students that have been with us before, we're planning an orientation open house type of an evening so that they can get set up for their classes. For the students that are in the ALE programs, alternative learning experience, for any of you who are new to that, those students have a little more flexibility than the rest of the district. They are funded under a different funding category. So if we have students who maybe have picked up full-time jobs or they're parenting or things like that, we can modify their schedules a little bit to make sure that they can still access the curriculum. So those are the basic overview of the things that we're going to be doing. One of the things I do want to remind everybody of is, because our students voted to delay graduation until the fall on the hope we would be able to do it in person, it's looking like that will not be possible now. So we are working on plans for the Choice graduation from last year's seniors, which will still be on Friday, September 18th. And we met with our graduation committee today, and we've got some plans in the works. So as soon as those are finalized, we will run them by the district office and the board. And we're looking at doing something very similar to what Shelton High did with a drive-up graduation ceremony. So that's the other thing we're planning right now, and making sure we get those kids sent off well from last year. And that is it. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions from board members?
Stacy, do you, I know you have many students who are going to be in that grouping of kids that just have extra challenges. And so one of the things, we're trying to make special accommodations. Is there going to be any opportunities for them to come in to the school with social distancing, or have you guys talked about that?
We've been talking about that with district leadership for sure, and with my staff. My staff is adamant that we need to provide that for those students that we can, especially because we know that many of our students are qualified for McKinney-Vento. They qualify as homeless. We have a lot of students who move around a lot. So even if they had a fixed address, they may not now. We already have some of our staff that have been working over the summer, our host program, the district McKinney-Vento liaison, who've been reaching out to those students. And if all of the plans work out as as we hope, we will have ability for, like some of the other schools mentioned, for people to come in on an appointment basis, or maybe have some support services available in the building when we just can't do it virtually. Our goal for the counselors this summer, they met quite a bit and did a whole plan, was to do as much of those services virtually as we can. But we do have a few staff who are happy to come in if it's safe to do so at the time. And we're working with Robert Heron as our district facilities coordinator and Karen DeWitt and all of our staff to make sure that's done safely.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. Anybody else?
So Stacy, with starting a new high school, I know this is probably not ideal or how we wanted to launch Cedar and the new tech venture. How is new tech and K-12, how are they going to mesh together, or are we sort of going to be more K-12 with the hope of adding new tech components as we go along and as we're able to be more blended model and then face-to-face model?
So we met with our, good question. We met with our Cedar teaching team actually today and talked with them about this and the new tech model. And as of right now, our plan is we will go with the K-12 curriculum for fall. We decided that the whole district is doing that, and it just made more sense for families to be able to do that. But we're still enrolling students in Cedar, and their advisory course will be taught through the ECHO student management system, which is the new tech, really awesome, innovative grading system, so that students can learn that in the fall. And we'll continue to recruit students. And then we're going to be doing a lot of culture building with those students, where they, get to do fun stuff like work on picking the school mascot. And we've already got colors and things like that, but we don't have certain things identified yet. So we're going to try to really engage them with excitement about being involved in a new school, but also recognizing that in the midst of the pandemic, trying to pull off project-based learning right now would be very difficult to do, although there is some project-based learning in K-12, so we're going to integrate as much as we can. And if we go to a hybrid model where we're able to be back in school, the student or the staff already have the projects ready to go. They've worked on them all summer, so they're ready. We'll just wait for the kids to be able to be there with us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Other board members with questions?
Thank you for the updates and the information and your flexibility with all of this that's going on. And I very much appreciate the reminder about graduation. I never would have thought that, having planned that far in the future, that we would have, I was hopeful for the possibility of face-to-face, but after doing the drive-through graduation at Shelton High School, that was actually very nice too. So I will definitely be there. I've got it on my calendar for the 18th.
Awesome, thank you. And we might have to start it a little earlier than we initially planned with 6:30, because we're talking right now about, I'm going to be working with Shelton High staff that did theirs and see kind of what the timing was, but we might start a little bit earlier, but I'll get that out to you all hopefully by early next week, so you can put it on your calendars and we can have a location and everything.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
We had lots of positive feedback. I mean, there's families that saying we need to do it this way all the time. It's a lot more personal. Of course, choice has always gotten to be a lot more, it's smaller, and we've always had that personal touch that we haven't been able to have with the larger high school. So I'm sure it's going to be great. Also, I've been doing so many Zoom meetings, and I've been doing conferences and retreats and all kinds of things over Zoom. And so I'm just wondering about our technology, because besides the polling, the breakout rooms that you can go into and things like that, hoping that somehow we can do some of that project-based learning, utilizing those. And I mean, with my work with early learning, we've been sending packets home and then doing things over Facebook to show them how to use them. And, so like Mario said a lot about, and you too, about thinking outside the box. That's always been Choice's motto there. And boy, new new adventures.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sally. We did have a great training with New Tech this summer with all of our Cedar High School teachers. And the great thing was they utilized those breakout sessions, and everything they did through Zoom modeled for us what we can do with the students. And we really debated with the teachers on, do we want to just go for it and try to do this project-based learning? But given that we didn't really get a chance to recruit all the students we wanted in the spring, and we don't necessarily know exactly who's coming with us yet, given the pandemic and the length of it, what the teachers are planning to do, for example, we had 2 teachers who taught an interdisciplinary English history class last year. And I didn't get into this a lot. It was a similar kind of what Chelsea is doing, is some of our teachers will be teamed up. And we had 2 teachers who already taught those 2 classes together last year. They're ready to go. So they're planning on teaching it, utilizing K-12, but also bringing in some of those very things you're talking about, breakout rooms and meeting maybe as a whole group together in Zoom first, then switching over to the students doing their English and history, but they still want to tie it together in an interdisciplinary mode so kids understand how they're connected, so that they get some of that flavor of what the PBL school will really be like. And New Tech honestly has a ton of resources for us to do it in an interdisciplinary manner. So if the pandemic continues into 2nd and 3rd trimester, I wouldn't be surprised at all if our teachers say after 1st trimester, you know what, we're going to switch over and really start doing the projects virtually at this point, because that will have given us some time to see if we have more students that have shown up and we can recruit, and time for the teachers to work together to really get that piece under their feet going. So we have great things planned.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Any other comments or questions? Looks like that's it. We thank you, Stacy, for that update on your 3 schools, and we'll move on to Shelton High School next.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Apostle. Thank you very much for this opportunity for me to share with you. First of all, I just want to say that since I've been here, I have experienced nothing but support from everybody, district administration, my fellow principal colleagues, staff. It's really been a unique situation coming into this type of the start of a school year, but I couldn't have asked for more support. I can also tell you in 32 years in Tempe, Arizona, I never had a snow day, just so you know that. So I'm kind of interested to see what they're like. So, but anyway, the one thing I want to emphasize is I think this is the greatest opportunity we've ever had to reimagine our schools. I'm sorry it took a pandemic to do it. And we've all been trying. I mean, I've been in education for 32 years, and we all have tried for years to try to do things that we know need to be done, but for some reason couldn't get it done. And this opportunity to look at how we deliver instruction online, I think is the greatest opportunity we've had. And I'm excited. I mean, I know it's not optimal, but I'm excited for the possibilities of what we can do. Since the decision was made to go all online, I know all of us have been working feverishly. We were kind of in that period where we've got like a lot of irons in the fire. And then once the decision was made, we could focus on what needed to be done. We immediately opened up lines of communication with not only our staff and our parents, with our community at large. I had a meeting with the president of the Chamber of Commerce today on how we could partner with our business community. We will be having, I will be sending out weekly emails to our parents, as well as live YouTube forums. And then we're also doing a orientation video for our families. My first forum is this Thursday, August 13th at 6:30 p.m. The one thing I want to talk to you about that I'm really excited about, not only are we doing the K-12 training, but we have a unique opportunity to partner with Arizona State University. And I know you're probably saying that's a long ways away, but in my connections in working in Tempe and having ASU in my backyard for that long, I've gotten to know and work with a lot of really great people at ASU that are willing and able and want to help schools no matter where they're at. And so we're partnering with Arizona State to deliver professional development to 10 of our teachers on campus. And this professional development is not how to deliver the K-12 curriculum, but how to be an effective online instructor, because it's different than teachers have ever done before. And there's a difference between managing the K-12 platform and being an effective online instructor. And I think Chelsea touched on it with developing relationships. How do you do that in a virtual environment? So we have 10 teachers, and it's a train the trainer model. So those 10 teachers will then work with their colleagues so that all of our teachers have the benefit of this professional development. Besides the 3 days of live synchronous online PD, those 10 teachers will also have 30 weeks of mentorship from staff at Arizona State University. And just real quickly, the background of this is Arizona State University started a pre-K through 12 charter school about 10 years ago. And the university has backed that K-12 system with literally millions, tens of millions of dollars of research. So they are the leaders in online instruction. And I'm just excited that our teachers are going to have the benefit of this. And I just can't tell you how excited I am about it. I mean, I just didn't ever think we'd be able to do this far away. The emphasis here has been on delivering a comprehensive, robust curriculum. Every class that our students signed up for, they're going to be offered in the fall. And we are, if it's not on the K-12 platform, we are figuring out a way to deliver it through Google Classroom. Our teachers have been great. Nobody has said, hey, I can't do this. Everybody has said, just tell me what I need to do and we'll get it done. And so we want to make this as, I mean, it can't be normal, but we want to make this as normal as possible for our students. They're going to get a schedule. The Bell schedule is going to look similar to what it's looked like in the past. They're going to see their teachers in an instructional environment. If they're not working at school, they'll be working at home. We've asked them to have a dedicated workspace at home so that you know, you don't have dogs running around in the back room or barking. Or they need to have a dedicated workspace if they're going to work from home. The one thing that we are doing with the Bell schedule is we are building in support during the school day. So besides their classes, there will also be time set aside where the students know that they can get help in a particular area. The teachers are also going to have time to collaborate. One thing we're asking our teachers is this is not the situation where you can do it on your own. I don't believe in closing the classroom door and just leave me alone, I'm going to teach. And I think one of the principals said earlier, these are our students. They're not yours and mine. And so if you've got a group of math teachers, that group of math teachers is going to collaborate so that all kids benefit from the best instruction possible. And it shouldn't matter if I get teacher A, then I get really good instruction. If I get teacher B, then I don't get such good instruction. Everybody needs to benefit from the strengths of the department and the strengths of the team. During the time we built in for support, we also built in that can include social emotional support. It can include support for the advisory curriculum that we've implemented in the past. So I'm really pleased and happy with the attitude of the staff. Everybody has a can-do attitude. There are 3 challenges though, well, there's many challenges, but there's 3 that we've identified that we really need to focus on. The first one is how to support our families that don't have the greatest connectivity. So what we're doing is we're putting together a map, a giant map, that lists where all of our kids live and then where cell service and internet service is available. So before the school year even starts, we're going to know who's going to have issues with connectivity and not wait till they tell us they're having issues. The other thing is how do we provide services out in the community? I'm a firm believer that learning can take place in many different places. It doesn't just take place from 8 to 3 inside a school building. So as it becomes safer to do, how do we deliver services in the community? And the third thing is how do we support our teachers that are not on the K-12 platform? They're going to be developing curriculum at the same time they're teaching it, which is a really difficult task. And so we know that we need to provide support, additional support for those teachers that aren't on the K-12 platform. So those are some things that we're doing, we've been doing, and those are the challenges that we see ahead of us that we're addressing. And I'll be happy any questions you have for me.
Any questions or comments from board members?
I have a couple questions. You know, one of the things I appreciate, I mean, that's super exciting about ASU and the opportunity, especially the train the trainer, because I think you're absolutely right that probably what our teachers are used to doing in-person instruction is going to be completely different when they have to teach online. But I just have a question on how, you know, what is the plan for supporting the teachers who aren't going to be using the K-12, you know, and kind of the timeline for the training of the teachers that isn't necessarily the ASU training, but just K-12 and other.
So the K-12 training is consistent throughout all of our K through 12. So that training is already set. And our teachers are already signed up for that. And that'll be delivered on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. All of our teachers, whether they're using K-12 or not, will be going through that training. And that's because we don't know, K-12 may add classes in the future. There may be some changes. So even if a teacher right now is not on the K-12 platform, they will be going through that training. Then starting on the 24th, we have the ASU training on the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And there are about half of the 10 teachers in that training are teachers that are not on the K-12 platform.
Oh, okay.
So they're getting support. They'll be getting support, not only those 3 days of training, but the 30 weeks of mentorship with that ASU connection. Then it's each administrator here at school has been assigned as a liaison to a couple of departments. So myself, I'm going to be working with the social studies department and the science department. So in those two departments, any teachers that are not on the K-12 platform, I will be working with them and talking to them directly about what support they need. Because I think it's important that we don't assume what support they need. We ask them what support they need. And then all the other administrators are assigned a couple of departments. So we're all the departments are covered. At this point, we don't know what support they're going to need other than the training we're providing. Once that training happens, then I think we'll have a better idea of what support is needed.
Can I jump in too, Bruce, just a little bit here?
Yeah.
Lynn, we've already provided to the district several different opportunities for Google Classroom and G Suite. So that part has already been done. However, I know that there are some that would like more of that. And we have a contract with the ESD where we get some of those classes for our teachers where they don't have to pay. So that's always open to them as well. So like Bruce said, if they go along and they need more, we have a definite way to provide that for them.
That's great. Thank you.
But I just want to say real quickly, I haven't been this excited in years. I'll be honest with you. I know it's a challenge, but I just think that we don't ever want to go back to what we did before. This is an opportunity to reimagine our schools so that no matter what happens in the future, we can be dynamic, we can be flexible, and we can react at a moment's notice. That's our goal.
Well, and I think anytime you treat it as an opportunity, you're setting yourself up for much greater success than otherwise. And I can relate to the no snow days. My kids never had snow days. We were on it too. So other questions and comments from other board members?
Bruce, it's really nice to see you and hear your presentation. I'm very excited about this potential partnership and just all of the opportunities that's going to bring our teachers and our students. So thank you for helping bring that connection to our school district. I'm very excited about that. I'm sure I will have more questions as time goes on. But for now, just thank you very much for sharing all of that with us. I think like I said earlier, I'm feeling very hopeful and positive for the beginning of this school year. I'm actually getting really excited for it to begin. And that's the first time I've felt excited instead of being more concerned about everything that's going on. So I just really appreciate all of the presentations tonight.
You can tell I'm excited when I talk really fast. So.
So I just want to say welcome to Shelton. What a move.
Yeah.
But it'll all be good.
Any other questions or comments? All righty. Well, thank you, sir, for that presentation and update. And I think then we can move on to Dina Alley.
Thank you, Sandy. Dina Alley, Director of Academies, if you're watching online, I want to continue your excitement. Like, this is such a great opportunity, and the meetings we have been having with our community partners to organize all of the community involvement with the school's K-12 has really been fascinating to me. So I just want to give you a list of Academy progress and planning that we've been doing. You have been hearing through numerous presentations about the construction of the new Manufacturing, Engineering, and Technology building. We are moving ahead on that. We are getting regular updates. We anticipate that we will be having classes in there by the second trimester of next school year. So the 21-22 school year, we're very excited about that. We'll be talking with the Freshman Academy Administrator, Curtis Patching, and Bruce this Friday to get an update on what Freshman Academy will look like in the virtual setting and the plans to really continue to help and improve those 9th grade statistics so that students have their best foot forward at Shelton High School. We had a fantastic meeting with our PEI community partners. That's Pacific Education Institute. If you're watching online and you're new to that, that is where we currently have natural resource activities with community partners in grades K through 8. And we're now expanding that into Shelton High School. And what was really fascinating about that meeting was how much those community partners have already worked to put their educational materials and experiences online. So we're working with PEI to reach out and gather all of those resources that then we can add to the Academy pages of our website, have places where families can go during this time and say, oh, here's an outdoor activity I could go do or be part of that has a direct connection to the PEI experiences that the students have always had in grades K through 8. We also asked them if they would be interested in some ideas that Don Wielander and I have been working on, such as, you know, wearing a body cam or a GoPro when their scientists go out in the field to do an experiment, and then being able to share that with teachers and classes, come be a virtual guest speaker. We have been throwing out a lot of different ideas, and they were just so excited about that. And I heard back later from them that they're just very happy that we had been organizing that. We are planning, Don Wielander and I are planning with Dr. Apostle's direction, our whole community meeting, partner meeting, to talk about where we are with academies and to get our community involved. Because one of the things we talked about was we wanted, because we want a K-12 system of academies and supporting events, we wanted an organized way to involve the community so that if you're doing an experience, it's not 50 people reaching out to the community or even 10, you know, somebody from each building, that we do that in a centralized way of this is what we need and these are the needs that you can fill and how you can fill them. So we're planning an activity, hopefully with jointly with the Chamber and the EDC, to really update our community partners and show them that even in this virtual environment, we have a whole list of ways that they can be involved and can continue to help our students and our teachers. We're working with the programming at Cedar High School. Stacy has been great. She has been joining us for our weekly Academy update because, again, we really want to help them form those partnerships for Choice and Cedar and do so in an organized manner. This is a great year while we're focusing on elementary on the core and looking at K-12 is a super opportunity for us in the background to look at what those K-8 Academy supports are going to be. So to examine things like junior achievement that Bordeaux does and how might we, when we go back to school, implement that across the elementaries. And what do all of our experiences look like so that every student in the Shelton School District gets a similar experience regardless of what building they're in. And we started to talk about that so much in this district that then our non-high districts started reaching out to me and saying, wait a minute, like, how can we help match up some of the things so that students don't arrive at Shelton High School or at Choice or at Cedar not having been exposed to some of these experiences. So that's very exciting because we can learn things from them and what they do for experiences, and we can help them so that students arrive and they don't feel behind or they don't feel that they've been left out of things. So that's a really great opportunity this year to do a lot of that behind the scenes planning and work that then we can start rolling out in whatever model that we're in the future. It's been really interesting to see what the state has helped put together. Every content area, every CTE organization, every employer that we've talked to, they have really tried to partner with someone to put resources online. There's been a fabulous, you've seen it in my board reports, Career Connected Home last school year while we were shut down, where every day students could log on and they could see people who worked in actual industries. How did they get there? What did they study in college? What skills did they learn? What do they wish they would have taken in high school? And all of that is still available. So one of the things that we're doing is building that resource base for teachers and for students so that if we want to do or need to do virtual job shadows, virtual college visits, all of those resources will be there for students and staff to be able to use. So it's just such a great opportunity to show students that you can have all of these experiences and that we can do things for experiences with teachers throughout our K-12 Academy model and have a chance to really create the organizational structure that we have wanted to have so that regardless of what stage we're in, our community members know what to expect, who to contact, what it looks like, and how they can be part of this. So in relationship building, this is a great chance for us to work with our community partners, even though we're in the midst of this pandemic. And I'd be happy to answer questions about our academy work. I had a meeting today with the SHS admin team because they have 2 new administrators who aren't familiar with our model of academies. And so we had great discussions around what all of that means. And we talked about some future training for them so that they have a picture of what many of you have seen when you visited Nashville with us and what our community members have seen and what all that planning has looked like over the years. So happy to take questions.
Questions and comments from the board. Who wants to go first? Well, must have been a very thorough presentation.
Well, you hear from me quite a lot because I get excited and I come to you and I talk about academies. So,
well, and I'm very pleased to hear that our neighboring districts, our non-high districts, are interested in getting their kids prepared to come into our district and be up to speed or a little more up to speed on those kinds of activities. So that's great that it's filtering out like that. I appreciate that. Looks like maybe Sally Carr.
Yeah, Dina, as always, I appreciate your thoroughness and your attention to detail and your forward thinking. So in looking at the academies and students, you know, we've got all the freshmen now who have made their picks and are moving into their academies. How are we finding the K-12 curriculum lining up with some of those academies? Is that working out okay, or are we finding we're going to have to fill gaps?
So it's really interesting. The vast majority of classes, when we did the crosswalk alignment, the vast majority of classes lined up. Interestingly enough, right down to things like Intro to Hospitality and Tourism, which I thought was really interesting that there was an exact course. The places where there wasn't a course are things that we would expect, but things where there are already things in place. So NGROTC is going to use Google Classroom, right? Like they're fully prepared to do that. Mike Beyer, you have had a presentation from him in automotive about that fantastic program Electude that he has, that, you know, adults studying for the SAE certification use the exact same program. He's more than ready to go on that. A lot of the teachers who, if there wasn't a direct match, Project Lead the Way in our biomedical sciences program, Christy Zakem is fully prepared to do that using Google Classroom. So the vast majority of them, there was a straight crosswalk to, and those that there weren't, the teachers are like, yeah, I can do that. And it's not just in our direct academy classes, but it's for the very first time this year, Shelton High School has enough students to do AP Physics, and we're very, very excited about that. There wasn't a direct crosswalk to AP Physics, but Chris Lacey, we all know and love Chris Lacey, he's ready to do that on Google Classroom. So, you know, Bruce is right. His staff is great and they're doing everything they possibly can, but there is no lag on the academy work. It will look different. Students will learn things in a different way. Don and I were talking about, you know, you will lose some hands-on things until we can get back to a hybrid model. We've been talking about things like welding and things like that, but there's still all of those things in the background, that metallurgy and all of the things that we can use to elevate our classes. Don, in talking to that teacher, was like, when you go to college, did you not have to learn this? And he's like, well, yes, we just really haven't had time to go over that in class. Well, now we do. Yeah, and it can be as easy as, okay, for Thursday, you're going to go find a piece of metal. You're going to come back. You're going to tell me, you know, what you believe it is. Is it hardened? How do you know? What are things that we learned about the metallurgy? So there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that, while we're waiting to get to the hybrid model, actually elevates that coursework so that they get closer and closer and closer to all of those college credit articulation agreements that we have, so that more and more students start picking up college credit earlier and earlier.
Cool. So thinking into the future, when we're beyond this, I guess part of what I'm hearing potential for is maybe being able to offer some classes through our academies, maybe that would be online classes that would allow students maybe to get some of these things that we sometimes don't feel like metallurgy, for example, that maybe we don't have time for.
Yeah, you know, there's always conversations. I am with everyone who has spoken tonight. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to redesign and expand what we have and what we're talking about and what it might look like in the future. You know, this is just a chance to look at it differently. And this is a great team across the district that's willing to do that. There's not a single person who hasn't said, you know, this is a chance to make things different and better. As Bruce said, I'm sorry it took a pandemic for us to finally be able to break down those walls and do it, but it is certainly an opportunity to do that.
Sally, we do a little bit of that right now, not very much, but a little bit of it. So if we, like, for instance, we had a couple of kids who needed calculus BC, and we didn't offer that. So we've offered it through Fuel Ed, which is the sister, it belongs to the same company as K-12. So we've done a little bit of it, but it would be nice to be able to expand.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like I'm hearing the word opportunity a lot tonight, and I can sort of imagine what some of that might end up looking like in the future. So sort of exciting. Again, it's a bummer. It's the pandemic's getting us to this point, but it's sort of exciting.
You know, I had talked to a business, and they had commented that the pandemic had propelled them 3 years ahead of schedule on a lot of technology issues. And, you know, I see the same thing in education. It's really propelled us forward. So any other comments or questions? All righty. We thank you so very much, Dina. Dr. Apostle?
Yes, I've been listening intently. And truly, speaking as a superintendent, this was truly an amazing evening. It was unbelievably successful. What we've witnessed this evening is leadership to the highest degree in the most stressful and challenging times. This is a big piece in terms of what we've asked our building administrators and in particular our principals to do. But this is only a piece of their responsibility. And what they presented tonight was fantastic, quite frankly. And I'm very pleased with their work. And this is just the beginning. I know that. But you know, it's the people that make a difference. And most of the board and most of the people that I'm speaking to this evening know that it's taken going into 6 years to put the very best people in position to do this kind of work. It's almost fate that we have such high caliber people to deal with a very difficult situation. So all I can say is I thank our building administrators, our principals, Mary Ann, Kelly, just the entire team for moving us to where we are right now. We know we have a lot of work to do, but I'm telling you, we're in a great position at this point in time to be very successful in the 2021 school year. So thank you so much to everyone for a great performance tonight. And I know that you'll carry on and do great things for our kids. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apostle.
Thank you.
At this point in time, it is 8:30. Do we feel the need to take a short break or stretch, or shall we just keep on going? We've got 3 more items on our discussion and action list. What does the board choose?
I think if Brenda's ready to go, I'd like to push through.
Keep on going?
Yeah.
Okay, I see a lot of heads shaking yes, so we'll move on to the budget update with Brenda. Thank you.
Boy, let me tell you, that was a hard act to follow here. That was just amazing, like Alex said. It does make you excited. I wish my kids were almost still back in high school. So I'm first going to present the budget, the 2021 budget that we've been meeting on every Thursday afternoon to go through this over and over this year, which has been good. I like the process. In your board packet, you do have the official document, big, thick thing. I'm sure you probably didn't enjoy reading through, but I apologize for that, but that is the official. It has been submitted to the ESD. It underwent all the reviews for compliance and reasonable enrollment numbers and those type of items they look at, and we cleared. It is at OSPI now for their review. So if it's okay, I'm going to share a screen just to go through a few things that are in the budget.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I just have to find it. Okay, here we go. Okay. So on the first screen, I'll talk about our general fund budget, which is our main budget in the whole process. It runs our day-to-day operations here in the district. It keeps our lights on, it keeps the buses going. Everything we do day-to-day is in this budget. We have built this budget on 4,125 FTE, which is a conservative number for past, but for an online situation, we're not quite sure how many kids will be here, but we're optimistic that we'll be okay with this. Our estimated beginning fund balance for September 1st is $2.5 million. We did take a hit due to COVID. The food service revenue was down a little over $500,000. So you'll see revenue reductions in the current year. So when I close the books, I don't do that till October. So this is just an estimate of where we're going to be. Our budgeted revenue is $67,428,771. And our budget expenditures are $65,441,016. Included in this is a 10% reduction in expenditures, which the board did direct that we push a budget through with that in there just to be on the conservative side and be safe. We also include in the expenditures, the state passed through a 1.6, what they call IPD. It's a cost of living increase for all staff. So that is included in there. We also increased certificated instructional staff at the K-3 categories in our 3 elementary schools to maximize the funding for the class size reduction. Also in this is our levy. We did pass a $5.5 million levy this past spring. So the new collection will start in the calendar year 2021. We do have to roll that back a little bit. We aren't allowed to collect the full 5.5 million. So I rolled back $89,602 out of that for the 2021 collection based on what OSBI is calculating that we can collect. If enrollment does come in less, that could impact the levy collection. That's part of the calculation on that. And the levy equalization dollars also is generated as an enrollment piece in there. So OSBI has discussed that with us last Thursday in our meeting. So the next page, this breaks it down by our objects in our budget, and it compares it to last year's budget. Since this current year is not closed yet, I've compared budget to budget on this document. So our certificated salaries, which includes all of our teachers, principals, librarians, counselors, and there are some district level administrators that are certificated, are in this category. We are up a little bit in that, and part of what that would be is the 1.6% increase in salaries, plus they have a salary schedule that they move up in years of experience and their degrees. So that has increased a little bit, which that is 42.81% of our total expenditures. Then our classified salaries, you will see, are down a little bit. And those are 17.47% of our expenditures. That is all our paras, any secretarial support, custodial maintenance, bus drivers, food service. I'm a classified person. My tech department is classified. All of our pool staff, coaches, they all fit into that category. And then we have our employee benefits, which is their insurance through the School Employee Benefit Board, and then all mandatory payroll taxes for all staff. That is down a little bit also, and that is $16,269,187, and that's 24.86% of our total budget. So our salaries and benefits right off the top on our contracts that are negotiated are 85.14% of our total expenditures in our budget. So that doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for other things, but we have supplies and instructional materials. That could be custodial supplies, it could be the grounds care supplies, it could be classroom supplies, computers go into there. So anything consumable falls into that category, and that is about $4.9 million, and it's 7.53% of our total budget. Then we have purchase services, which are copy machine contracts. All of our utilities are in that category. The district liability insurance is in there. We have software services through the ESD that all of our payroll runs through. That type of thing is in there. So that is about 4.6 million, and that's 7.03% of our budget. Then travel, we have, and there won't be any lodging during this period of time, but that is a category in there. Mostly what that will be for right now is we do have staff, especially custodians, that travel from building to building, and we do pay their mileage for that. We also pay, like our tech department has to go building to work on items, so they get mileage also. So that is a 0.22% of our total expenditure. And then capital outlay, there's in the state accounting manual, there's a definition that has to have a lifespan of more than 1 year and be over $5,000 for one single item. So You don't have a lot of things like that. We do have network servers. If one of those goes down, that would fit into there. A lot of our food service, our big equipment would fit into there. So we do budget some there. And that is a 0.08% of the total budget. So you have the 85.14%, that's all salaries and benefits. And then everything else is 14.86% of our total budget. So we have $65,441,016 in expenditures in this budget. So are there any questions on general fund before I move on to the other funds? No. Okay.
Sally Brownfield, did you have a question? You look like. No. Okay. Just one, Brenda, save me from looking it up. Did benefits as a percentage change much from last year to this?
No, they are pretty consistent this year. They did not fluctuate much. Sometimes you'll see retirement increase quite a bit, but it was pretty stable this year. So.
Well, and we didn't implement a lot of the PEBs and things yet, correct? Which would have a big impact on future benefits and the percentage of payroll.
Well, we did the SEB last January, so that is continuing on. So you're not seeing that increase. It's just steady. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? All righty. Next up.
So the next one is Capital Projects Fund. You heard Jeff Feeney present on all of our projects we have going on, and this is where we pay for those projects from. You sell bonds, which we did in 2015 when we passed this, and that is a tax collection that goes into another fund and then it gets deposited here. So this is where we're paying all the contractors out of in this fund. So our estimated beginning fund balance for September 1 is a little over $7 million. We will have revenue coming in from, we have agreements with our non-high districts to help with the high school projects that we did. So that money is being deposited into Capital Project Fund to continue making improvements to both of our high schools. And then budgeted expenditures, we're anticipating about 11 million as we start paying out some of these projects and finishing up. And then, so I'm projecting the ending balance for next year to be just a little over $2.4 million. So are there any questions on capital projects?
Does not appear so.
Okay. So the next one is the debt service fund, and that is where the tax collections from the bonds we sold that taxpayers paid get deposited into this. And then I pay the bonds twice a year on June 1st and December 1st. So I use our bond payment schedule to build this budget. So our beginning balance is estimated to be a little over 2.4 million starting September 1st. And then you'll see the breakdown of the collection and the revenue of property taxes. We get a little bit of timber excise tax. Once in a while, we'll just get some little miscellaneous taxes and then investment earnings. So the budgeted revenue is a little over $6 million. And then our budgeted expenditures come out off the actual bond payment schedule. So that is about $5.9 million. So we'll have an ending fund balance projected at 2.5 million for this next year. So any questions on debt service?
Does not look like it.
Okay.
Oh,
whoop, do we have one? Maybe. Okay. All right. Next one is Transportation Vehicle Fund. This fund can only be used to purchase school buses. So we receive depreciation payment from the state once a year on August 31st. So we have one coming up here. So that will be increasing. That's why the beginning fund balance is at about $256,000 because we're anticipating right around $150,000 on August 31st. So then our budgeted revenue, we have to include next year's August 31st payment in the revenue plus some interest. So that's $150,122. And then we've plugged in, I've worked with Holly, we've plugged in expenditures just in case we are able to buy some buses. We're not sure the status with COVID, if they're going to be producing buses or where we're at, but there's a capability to buy a couple buses here if we can. So our projected ending balance for next year will be $156,226 going into the next year. So are there any questions on transportation vehicle fund?
Does not look like it, so
Okay.
thank you for that.
Got one more, ASB fund. We have 4 ASB funds, all at our secondary level schools. Our elementaries do not have ASB funds, and they all have to budget separately. And what they did this year, because it was a little more complicated because school wasn't in session, they didn't have student bodies to pass their budgets. So for the majority of them, we just rolled them forward and we made notes that due to COVID, here is what we have done. And the state auditor, as you know, I'm working with her still. She said that that would be fine. So we've put together Olympic Middle School. They pretty much just rolled their fundraisers because during this time, we know there's not going to be fundraising happening, but we've just got them in there just in case we can come back. So I'm just gonna go on down to the bottom and give you the totals. Our beginning fund balance for September 1st for all of them will be $372,439 for all of their budget revenue. And this also includes like gate receipts for football and that type of thing. It's all still in there, is $719,726. And then expenditures, $651,469. And an ending fund balance of $440,696. So this one is very flexible this year. It's just going to depend on what truly happens with school. So are there any questions on Associated Student Body Fund?
I have a question. Will the Cedar High School be developing an ASB as they open up?
They would like to, so I'm working on that. I have to look at all the guidelines and they have to do bylaws and that type of thing, which will be difficult for them to do without being able to elect their officers and stuff. So there may be a delay on them having that. Also, Chelsea at OMS is wanting to look at theirs a little differently too, just because they're a 5-6 now. So I'm doing some research for her also on theirs.
Okay. And then if this budget doesn't go as planned, you don't have to submit to modify this.
No,
correct? Okay.
Right. This is basically what you can do with this budget. It allocates our total expenditures that we're allowed to spend for the year. And then what happens within it is flexible for what we need to do, especially in this COVID situation. So.
Very good.
So
Any other questions?
Oh, sorry.
Just giving other people a chance for questions or comments.
Okay.
All righty, I don't see any.
Okay, so we will be doing the public hearing at the next board meeting on August 25th. And then I will also have the resolution for the adoption of the budget prepared for that time for your board packet that we will need to adopt. So.
All righty, thank you very much.
Okay.
Any other information, questions or comments from anybody?
That's all I have to share. I'll answer questions.
Any questions, Dr. Apostle, or comments?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, all righty. Looks like Brenda's still up with
I'm up. Okay. So as you've probably been hearing, we received some CARES money from the federal government. It has two names. We have the CARES Act, which is the Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So then we are receiving ESSER money under the CARES Act, and it's Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief is what the formal name of the grant is. So we did an application for it. The full amount of that is $975,237. We are only allocated and have available 80% of it right now. So that's $780,190. They had held back $195,047 to be potentially released mid-August. But there is some litigation happening now to that piece. So OSPI in a meeting I had Thursday said that they weren't positive that that last piece could be released yet, that's going to be held up. But we prepared the grant for the full, we have to fill it out for the full $975,000. So Kelly and Alex and I sat down and spent it in 10 minutes. But some of the things that we allocated out for was special ed has some testing that they'll need to do during this COVID. So we plugged in about $20,000 for that. You heard most of the principals tonight in their reopening plan talk about meeting with their leadership teams. We've allocated money in there to pay those leadership teams to help them with that work. There's also money in there. There's a total of $250,000 to help the buildings get these plans going and doing all of that. So we wanted to make sure they had plenty of resources. We also have about $100,000 in there to help with professional development on sanitation and that type of thing to minimize the spread of COVID. We have $25,000 to help purchase some cleaning supplies with that. There's $250,000 in there to help with the online piece for the technology. So I was working with Glenn today. We're placing an order with T-Mobile to get some hotspots that we can actually, if we can find families that don't have connectivity, that the T-Mobile hotspot will work in their area, we'll be assigning them out to the families. So we're getting those on order. So we'll have them here soon. Also purchasing more Chromebooks, and then Kelly wanted some cameras so that they could record lessons. So we're really bumping up our technology with this. And then there's some more $150,000 in there again for additional technology and to assist with the K-12 online program. And then we have about $180,000 because to purchase at the time, we were still going to do the hybrid model. So that was to help purchase the PPE and that type of thing. We are allowed to do budget revisions in here. So Kelly and I have already been talking about the items that we could move around. This money is strictly supposed to use for COVID related expenses and preparation. So one of the claims I will be submitting this month is the daycare costs we incurred when we were providing daycare. So that's right around $30,000 that I'll be submitting for that. They do recommend that you only use this money for one-time costs, that you don't plug it in for ongoing financial items that you will have. And we have to spend the money first. You have to incur the cost and then you claim it in the following month on the grant. And we have through September 30th of 2022 to spend the money. So that's the CARES and ESSER in a nutshell. So do you have any questions on any of that?
Well, it's nice that we have until 2022. Any questions or comments from board members? I don't see any. So,
okay.
I do have a comment, Sandy, if I could.
Absolutely, go ahead.
I think we need to really take a good hard look at this money as it relates to any kind of transition from 100% online learning to a hybrid model. So we've got to be very careful how we expend the money as it relates to the current situation, thinking ahead and knowing that there is a chance that things will change again, for better or for worse. But if, let's say, they change for the better, we need some of that money set aside to prepare for a hybrid, possible hybrid model. So I think we need to be very careful, and I think we need to revisit this money again with the board to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of any future developments.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions from board members? All righty.
I have
go
a quick, hopefully quick question. So just as, remind me if I'm remembering this correctly, this money is basically we're borrowing against next year, or is this money just they're giving it to us out of the goodness of their heart, free and clear?
They have not finalized that yet. Again, in my last Thursday meeting, there is a chance that this will be considered a deductible revenue, which means we get it now and they will deduct it from the money they give us in the following year. So that still has not been finalized yet. So
This is similar to the transportation money debate. We've got to be very careful with this money and with the transportation money that they say they're going to give us up front, but then things change after December. And so we've got to be very cautious how we spend the money, how we prepare for the future, because we don't want to be trapped with this transportation budget and the CARES money. We have to be very careful.
Sounds like we'll be doing budget meetings weekly for quite a while.
I think we might.
All righty. Any other questions or comments? All righty. Seeing none, I want to thank you, Brenda. I know this has been quite a task in getting these numbers all pulled together, but it's good. It's been submitted and awaiting approval, and we'll soon have a budget and resolution for you at the next meeting so that the next year can keep rolling along.
Yeah.
All righty. Next up, we have a staffing update. Dr. Meisenberg.
Great, thank you. President Tarswell, board members, and Dr. Apostle, appreciate being here. This is my first regular board meeting. I'm like Bruce, just feel real privileged to be here and be part of this really outstanding team. Dr. Apostle asked me to address three things briefly for you. First is staffing, and we're in really good shape on the elementary. Elementaries are almost, if not already fully staffed. They're really, really close, and that's moved really well. And we're very pleased about that. We've been more cautious, as you may know, we've been more cautious with the secondary, not because they aren't ready to go, because they have been, but in taking a look at the budget to see if there were going to be any changes in it or more support, and also to try to project accurately the enrollment. So we've taken a more cautious approach. So we have some work to do there, and we're anticipating that we're moving forward now and that we can do that in a timely manner, but probably a little ahead of where I thought we would be in terms of elementary, and a little trepidation about the secondary with some of our administrators, but we're there and we're moving forward. We don't have a lot of positions left, but we'd like to have those in place rapidly. So in terms of staffing, we're in pretty good shape overall. We're in pretty good shape, and we're moving forward. Dr. Apostle also asked me if I would share some information just about a survey that we did with our staff, and we did a short survey and sent it out. Actually, Marianne Marshall and Katie worked on that, and Kelly, and it was, so we asked 5 questions in that survey, and the first was just simply location and if this is actually a live, thank you, Kelly. This is actually live. And the survey closes tomorrow in the afternoon, and these are, 359 people have responded, and you can see the percentage there responded by, the first question is, where do you work? And so you can see what people have tuned in and said about that. And are you certificated or classified was the second part. So we just get an idea of that. And the third question was, do you need access to the building in order to do your work, to instruct online? And that's an interesting response, I thought. And it gives us, remember at the time we put this out, even just a short time ago, that was really kind of an important question, you know. Do people need to come into the building? Do they have essential duties that they have to use the building for? Do they have connectivity issues themselves or other issues? And so we wanted to get kind of a sense of that. And that gave us some good information. And the next question, the fourth question was, if you believe you're in a high risk, in other words, you believe it, would you want to work exclusively from home? And if the answer to that was, you could be a high risk, but you don't need to work exclusively from home. But if you were, since this is an anonymous survey, we asked them if they would be willing to call their building principal and have a conversation about that, not revealing confidential information, but just to have a dialogue about, you know, what's going on and how can we serve you and how can we work together. And so we wanted to just make sure that there was that dialogue. And after listening to the principals earlier, I'm sure that that's been going on all along, but this was just a good indicator for us and a way to open the door for people. And the last question in the survey was, are you interested in teaching in the virtual academy the entire school year? And if yes, again, please contact your building principal and talk with them about that. So that was the survey. We're now, Kelly and Marianne and Katie are working on a second one, which has been mentioned a couple times. Thanks, Kelly, for putting that up. So there's another survey that's coming out and within the next couple of days, and that's a parent survey. And so we're looking forward to having that up. And so that was a survey that we did and one that's coming up. And the last item, I think we can take that down now, Kelly. Maybe not.
I'm
All right.
trying.
Maybe we'll leave it up. Okay. The last area was that Dr. Apostle asked me to talk about was negotiations. And as you know, we have entered into negotiations, Brenda and I, with SEA on an MOU. And the issue for everyone around the table, first and foremost, has been safety. And that's a great one. And so we've begun the talks with them. And there's a good spirit about that and what's going on in the classrooms and in the schools with the online model. But the other part is that there are other unions, associations that have not gone to the table yet. And their contracts end on August 31st. So our secretary's office professionals, our paras, our paratechs, our custodians, our bus drivers, our principals, they all have contracts that end on the 31st. Well, if the contract ends on the 31st, of course, they're rolled over into the next year. And so it's not a problem in that regard. The way it is an issue a little bit is that normally when you don't have a pandemic, you're negotiating in the spring and in the beginning of the summer. And by the time you're here in August, you're kind of wrapping up. There might be a couple contracts that are going to go into early September or something. So our unions justifiably, they would like to get to the table, and we're not going to make the August 31st. That's not possible. And the priorities are obvious on why we're not. But we are going to get to the table September, October, and November. We're obviously not going to let that contract go for a whole year and negotiate it next spring. I don't think that would be appropriate, and I'm sure they would agree with that. But we will be going to the table, and we've communicated that with them. They understand. If I was in their union, I'd like to get to the table too. So we get it, but we're working at it, and we're making good progress. And there's really one of the things Dr. Apostle had told me before I came here was about the great relationship that we have with our unions, and I really have to echo it. It's really refreshing. It's very, very positive, and a lot of good people doing a lot of good work, and we know that. So there, I think already we're building a real trust with me. I mean, you already have it with the district and other members, you know, Brenda and Robert and others who negotiate and work on the contracts. But anyway, it's a good feeling and we like it. And so those were the 3 items: staffing, the survey, and the negotiations. And it's great to be here. And I just, that's all I had to share at this time.
Thank you for that. Are there questions or comments from board members? Dr. Meisenberg, would you say we're at, you know, district-wide 75%, 90% staffing?
Oh, yeah, I would say we're down to, I would say we're probably down to 15 positions or so that we have left, and we have a plan for that. So no, we're way over, we're way down the road. We're not, this is not something we can't do. It's just that the principals were waiting to, they have people they've talked to and they want to bring on board. And so they've kind of been waiting to get the green light. So no, we're really overall in good shape, and we're certainly, going to make it.
Okay, thank you. Insofar as the category of positions that's typically hard to fill, how are we doing there?
So far, we're fine. We, when you are hiring in August, this late in August, there are positions they get a little dicey if we don't get our person. So that's part of the reason we're moving forward right now and stuff. But, and, in particular, like special ed and CTE and math and science. I mean, there are certain positions that are always difficult, but the later you get, the more competitive it becomes, because those people always have options. But so far we're okay. I haven't heard of any area where principal is saying we don't have viable candidates and we're in trouble. And I don't think we will be. So I think we're okay.
And I would imagine with the number of schools that are opening up online, the fact that we're online for opening doesn't work for or against us.
Yeah, I think that's a real fair statement. If you're looking for a teaching position, you're looking for an online position. I will say that, that connection with ASU, which I didn't know about that, but that connection with ASU in terms of enhancing how we teach online, that's when we're talking about recruiting teachers at all levels, because obviously that starts with this cadre of people that Bruce was talking about, but then that grows. That is a real plus. I think that's really a nice plus when we're talking to candidates.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? I see some shaking of heads. Okay, I think we can say thank you very much for that update on staffing. Very
thank you. Thank you.
Any comments, Dr. Apostle?
No, not at this time. I will have some comments to make under the superintendent's report.
And I think that might be precisely where we're heading. That
Yes.
Last update, staffing update, concludes our discussion and action items. So we can move on to the superintendent's report.
Well, thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate Dr. Meisenberg's optimism. This is a very important week in terms of the budget and in terms of staffing and everything else. And I'll get to that in just a quick moment, but I'm looking forward to Thursday to videotape a session with Kelly Neely answering questions regarding the reopening of schools, which in that presentation will be placed on Facebook in the form of a taping. But I'm also going to continue the Facebook communication. I think it's really important. And I'm going to work with Jeff Slakey to continue being on Facebook to answer questions and so on. I've been involved already this week in many Zoom meetings with staff, principals, and so on, superintendent meetings at the ESD, meetings with Superintendent Reichdahl, all dealing with some of the issues that we're all dealing with. And it's kind of refreshing to hear Superintendent Reichdahl have some of the same frustrations, quite frankly, that we're all experiencing. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. Things are floating in the air. We're not sure which way these things are going to go, but I appreciate his realism. This is a big week for the budget. We have a very important meeting this Thursday at 4:30 with the school board. This is our regularly scheduled Thursday study session on the budget, but we've come to the point where we need to make decisions. And so we'll be presenting our best recommendation to the school board this coming Thursday, and basically showing all the details in relation to our recommendation. Staffing is another issue that I'm concerned with. I agree with Terry that we're in a pretty good place, but you know, staffing and enrollment and revenue go hand in hand. And I'm very cautious about all three areas. And I'm not going to take very many chances, I will tell you that. My recommendation to the board regarding the budget will be extremely conservative to protect the district. And when, you know, we're a people business, and that's where the money is. And so people are waiting to hear what the decision is going to be. And we need to get that decision taken care of. And I think Thursday's meeting will really move us forward in making that decision. And then, of course, I've met with the union leaders and cabinet and you name it. I've met with everybody. In fact, we have a meeting scheduled with the union at 8 o'clock on Friday to basically communicate to them where we stand and where the board stands in terms of the budget. So that's a very important meeting. Then, of course, we'll have to maybe have a special board meeting after that to announce the direction of the budget. So we're touching all bases, but I can tell you right now, when it comes to enrollment, I'm very nervous in terms of the enrollment projection. But we'll see what happens. We're going to prepare for whatever may come down the road, but the budget needs to be intact. And that's going to take some doing during these difficult times. So my time has been spent meeting with people, the cabinet, dealing with the budget, staffing, and revenue projections, and so on. That's my work day every day, especially lately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to community comments. Will our host let us know what do we have in the way of community comments?
We have no community comments at this time.
Wow.
All righty. Thank you very much for that. Makes that section pretty fast. Moves on to board member comments. And I will ask Sally Carr to go first.
I'll keep mine really brief since we have had a long meeting. They've all seemed long lately. We've had a lot to talk about. I want to thank everyone for for all the preparation and the hard work that went into the reports tonight. As Dr. Apostle has said, as others have said, they were really outstanding. And it is exciting to look forward to the new school year, even though it's not quite what we were anticipating or what we were hoping for. But you are appreciated. Teachers, you are also appreciated. We know that you're putting in a lot of thought and hard work, probably some worry and a little stress as well as we get ready for the new school year. But we know that you're going to do all that you can to connect with your students and to make this the best year possible for our kids. I will not be at the study session on Thursday. I am unfortunately out of town on that day. So I will look forward to hearing and maybe seeing some of the information that comes out of that. And that's all for me tonight.
Thank you very much, Sally. All righty. How about Lynn?
I just want to echo what Sally had to say and just add that I think in the next couple of weeks, you know, a lot of the concerns that our community has and teachers and a lot of their answers or a lot of their questions are going to be answered. If, you know, if they didn't watch this tonight, I think a lot of questions got answered tonight too. So thank you everyone for all the work that you've been doing. It's incredible that we've been able to pivot and do this on the fly with something that we've never had to think about before. So, and Thursday, I'm planning to be at the study session, but I'm also out of town during the day. So I'm going to try and, if I've got service, I'll be there.
Great.
Thank you, Lynn, for that heads up. Sally B, will you be next?
Okay. Again, thanking everybody for their incredible work. It is a lot of time, stress, but incredible optimism. I want to thank those people that we never get to see that are tuning in on YouTube and whatever and keeping up with things and looking forward, and you know, they have such a stake in all of this and keep asking those questions. Where are we going? What are we doing? I've been having a lot of WASDA special meetings and the COVID meetings, and we had a retreat this last weekend. So I spent most of my weekend in front of the computer. But planning for the conference and caucuses and the General Assembly and the Ledge Assembly. So one thing that they came up with, which I'm scratching my head about, but they're saying, WASDA is saying that through their research that 92% of our students in Washington have connectivity. And I'm just going, I don't see this. I don't feel it. Yeah. And so I don't know if they only had certain counties that they got their information from or what, but I really question that. And yeah, I don't feel it. I am interested in knowing in our district, what percentage of our students did not connect in what we were able to provide in the spring. So I know Spokane has put out, their school district has put out their numbers, and a few others have, and they had a full 30% that never connected at all. So there's concern about that. So today I did let me see. Yesterday I did a presentation for Pacific Education Institute, and we had a couple of our teachers from Shelton that were at that training. So good to see them. I did a statewide one this morning, and that was on early learning through Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So I think people are getting more and more comfortable with using the technology and using all the different elements that are available. So I'm sure that our kids will probably learn it faster than a lot of us adults. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Sally. Carrie, would you be next?
Yes, I just want to thank everybody as well for just excellent reports. I think we have some very fantastic and amazing people in place to make this a great year, and I'm very excited about it. I am always excited to also hear about the bond updates and see our athletic facilities coming along and the Bordeaux gym. I know that while we're not on campus, we're not seeing that actually in person. So I always appreciate the photo updates of that. And I do hope that we can continue to follow the WIAA guidelines, our local health guidelines, and allow our groups to get together in small, safe, following the guidelines groups, because for some of our kids, that is their saving grace to get that bit of conditioning. I think that, giving our kids some athletic time and hopefully maybe even incorporating some PE. I didn't hear that today, and it is a big health concern with everybody being so sedentary. I'm hoping that maybe that can, whether it's through our athletics and small groups, that can continue. And then the community partnerships that we've talked about, I forgot to mention a couple weeks ago, I was able to walk through the YMCA that is in the process of being built. It's coming along, but it will not be a facility that anybody's ready to go into until February. I believe it's the end of February, beginning of March of 2021. But that's going to be an amazing facility for our community. And they actually made some brand new, beautiful sidewalks right in front of OBJH as well. So that whole area looks really nice. But, I know that they're looking for different types of partnerships, and there's other groups in our community too that are wanting to be there to support our families while we go with online schooling, and that is challenging for working parents. So that's definitely something that's on my mind. This Thursday, because our budget sessions are at 4:30, I'll be able to attend for a half an hour, but then I will be hopping onto the forum for OMS at 5 o'clock and the OBJH one at 6 o'clock. So if multiple people have time concerns on Thursday, we might want to look at either changing the time, bumping it up, or choosing a different day. Because I will only be able to be on that meeting for a half an hour, and I know they tend to go longer than that. So I wanted to let you know.
Appreciate the heads up on that. And I think we probably will want to revisit that because this is a very important meeting and we'll probably want to have as many people as we can at that. My comments would consist of a lot of dittos. And one other thing, just a reminder of the board retreat on Monday night. And Sally Brownfield mentioned a retreat for anybody that's watching. It doesn't mean we're out there, sitting on the patio, just laid back, relaxing. We're working really. It's just a lot different. It's a different format than school board meetings and things like that. So we will have our retreat on Monday. And I know that I have heard from community members that have stated that it would be a welcome thing to see the district reach out into the community more, move out into the community more with messaging. And so it seems like we're really doing that, especially with recording these messages, posting them out there on Facebook. It's not just on our webpage anymore. We're really getting out there across social media where more and more people will find us, either accidentally or on purpose. So very good. Glad to see that. And with that concludes all the board member comments. We have no need of an executive session this evening, so we can take a motion to adjourn unless there's some other business somebody needs to bring forth.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi.
We can hear you. Can you let us know?
My name is Socorro Villeda. I'm a community member.
All righty, so you are giving us some public comment at this period?
Yes, I'm sorry. I've been listening for 2.5 hours, but I wasn't sure if you would call on me or you were just waiting for me to unmute.
All righty. Everybody's all right if we give her the floor? Okay. You have your time. Go ahead. You said your name was Sequoia?
Socorro Villeda.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to bring up a little bit about the dual language program at Evergreen, if possible.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I just feel like it's losing momentum. I feel like that a lot of the Spanish-speaking families out there are being left behind. I feel like they're not getting enough support during all this online schooling, if that makes any sense.
Thank you.
Hello?
The point of public comment is for the public to have an opportunity to speak to the board members. It is not intended to be a dialogue or a discussion. We can direct the superintendent to follow up on anything that comes up in public comment that we feel needs to be followed up on. And I'm telling you this because I get the feeling you may be a little new to this kind of process. And so I'm trying to kind of lay the foundation.
So would it be best just to send an email to the school board with my concerns and comments instead of chiming into this meeting?
Well, chiming into the meeting is always good. Email is also good. We will, direct follow-up. But it's not a time for us to sit and have a back and forth dialogue. Part of the Open Public Meetings Act requires that we follow a set agenda so everybody knows what's going to be discussed. And there's and so this would be considered a non-agenda item. And again, we welcome the input. Your concern about the dual language losing momentum is a valid concern, and we thank you for bringing that forward and speaking your mind. But again, this is not like a community forum would be an opportunity where you could ask questions and get answers directly. This type of process, you don't necessarily get that benefit, but we still appreciate you taking the time to give us your thoughts and concerns.
Sandy?
Yes.
Would it be possible to get Ms. Viate's email address so that someone can communicate back to her after this meeting, since we don't have them give their physical address, since this is not a meeting like that? Could we get contact information?
Absolutely. She can probably give that to our host. Would that be accurate?
And probably better to do it after we are no longer streaming live on YouTube.
Right. That's kind of where I was going.
I would appreciate that.
Alrighty, yes, please make sure that we have some information that you can leave with the host, or send us an email or something so that we can connect with you better.
Okay, so do I just stay on here and unmute, and then somebody's going to talk to me afterwards, or how does that work?
Yes, this is Bob McMath, the host. I will, if you have comments like that, I will talk with you in the forum after we terminate the recorded session.
Okay, and just real quick before we hang up, or before I go off mute. So is there any way to add to a future meeting the topic of the dual language program at Evergreen to the agenda?
We can certainly discuss that and see if, if and when that would be an appropriate discussion for a board meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. We thank you very much. Host, are there any other possible?
Yes, there is one other individual who sent an email, Ellen Sanchez, who says she's been waiting on the phone to comment. I'm not sure if she's the other phone number that's listed here. But Ms. Sanchez, if you are still there, you can chime in at this time?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yes, like Socorro, I'm also would like to comment and support a future discussion about the dual language program at the Evergreen Elementary School. And I'm concerned about not losing the model, and would like to hear the district's commitment. So that sounds like a future plan.
All righty. Again, you'll leave contact information with our host so that we can
Thank you very much.
make a note of that. Thank you very much. Any other public comment out there?
None from me.
All righty. All righty. Thank you. I really apologize to those people that were waiting to speak. And I'm glad that you were able to get in, even though it was at the last minute. We appreciate that. So with that, is there anything else before the board? Then we would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All righty. Thank you all very much for sticking with us through this very lengthy meeting, but it was all very good information. And thank you all for all the hard work. I know there's still a lot of hard work ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you.